everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, Latara, back today with a whole new panel of guest judges. Not new, but this is the first time this specific panel has been together. Welcome to Maria, Lisa A, and Lisa S. Welcome.
Yay. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. All right. Y'all ready to get into this? It was a great week, yes?
The juicy burger we're
so
about
good.
to bite into. I'm so excited.
So good. It was so good. And y'all know, I feel like y'all know, usually I get on, I'm like, well, let's do this thing, I guess.
None of the storylines disappointed, so buckle up. This is going to be a long...
Even Sheridan and Diana and Brian over on that island, I was like, this is giving. Let me bring it down from 2 times speed to 1.5 speed. Like,
I did the exact same thing.
And you called her Sheridan for good reason.
I did call her Sheridan because she was giving a little bit of Sheridan this week.
Called her Sheridan.
Yep.
We were getting a little glimpse of Sheridan this week. So we're not going to start there. We watched episodes 746 through 750. Yes, everybody?
We did.
Yes. All right. But before we get into the episode, I have to give a big shout out to all of my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to not this list of people. Thank you to
Moon Shay.
Okay, there we go.
We can probably all recite them. We can recite them for you if you like.
She loves that top billing.
Okay, thank you to Moon Shay, Bree Lynn, Lisa, Sid, Randall, Hannah. Y'all, my mama usually is right there. She's not a patron anymore.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's probably because I'm gonna tell you what I know exactly what it is. Her card is always like somebody, I guess, is hacking her constantly, and she always has to get a new card constantly. So anyway, Sarana was there and she's not there anymore. Thank you too. Munashe, Bree Lynn, Lisa, Sid, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S, Larissa, Maria, Lisa A, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, Garrinch, Tom Bergeron, Pablo, Daisy, Shane, Kelly, Taylor, Harris Crane, and DJ. Thank you all so much for being patrons. And also, you know what? Thank you, Sarana, because, you gave me life, so I love you. Anyway, and she'll never get to this part of whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that's it. All right, so that's that. Now, we're going to start with Lord Jesus, Theresa, my baby girl. I'm wearing my Theresa Ethan shirt today. And I know you got your Gwen and Ethan. I see it. You got the trio. I love that. Lisa A's got the trio. So we're all kind of representing, except for you, Lisa. I'm gonna just send you a shirt, okay?
Okay, I accept.
It's the uniform.
I'm so embarrassed.
It's just uniform.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna start with the Theresa storyline. I don't know if I have music for them. Do I? I don't remember. Let's do this one. Trouble brewing.
Definitely.
Well,
storm brewing as well.
Yeah, there is oh my God.
The storms come out of nowhere.
There has to be a storm. It's not a summer storyline without a storm, right? So we pick up at the hospital. Remember that Theresa has been rushed to the hospital after her sentencing because she went into what seemed to be labor, but we found out that is false labor, right? So
Braxton Hicks.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Let me stop right now and say we've had our law expert. We have our acting expert. Lisa A is our pregnancy expert.
Fresh off it.
I've
never given birth though. My twins were not in the correct position. So they were talking about I've no experience with labor. I was told though in the prenatal class, if you are going into labor and you had a gun to your head and someone said, don't push, when it's time to push, even with the gun to your head, you cannot help but push. So labor is not something that can be be Maria can speak to us on that one further.
Yeah, I did it twice. I understand the pain. Epidural's your friend.
Yeah. So we have two pregnancy experts. I just called out Lisa because she just had babies. And
I know. Congratulations
to her.
Thank you so much.
Her twins. All right. So, yes. so Luis, Pilar, and Sam are outside of like what is Teresa's little emergency alcove place in the hospital, right? So there's like a curtain that divides her space from the rest of the hospital. They're out there talking about her fate. Oh, Teresa's gonna die. What are we gonna do? We can't, you know. So Eve goes to check on Teresa and realizes that Teresa, she's like, where's Teresa? Teresa's gone. She deduces immediately that Ethan helped her escape. She's like, oh my goodness, Teresa's gone. Ethan must have helped her escape. What do I do? So she just stands there like, I can't tell the police. They'll go and find them. And I kind of appreciated that Eve was like ready to kind of let them get away for a while. I was like, okay, Eve,
she's not above being unethical.
Right.
It's Eve.
We knew that.
It's Eve of all.
We knew that.
Yeah, unethical Eve of all people. So but I appreciated her lack of ethics in this situation.
She's a good friend. She's just not a good doctor or mother. So
yeah,
1 out of 3. Not bad.
She's not really a good friend
not a great
either.
No,
Because she's been lying to Grace about that boy being her son. She's just doing this one thing this one time. So
we'll take it.
So there's 2 random police officers who come up to Sam and Luis and Pilar outside of that little alcove, talking about Teresa, saying that they are going to have to take her back to the prison soon, yada, yada, right? Well, they then go inside and realize Teresa's gone, and they question Eve about it. And Eve says, oh, I just sent her to have more tests done. Oh, I love it.
It's a good one.
When the lies, I'm like, yes. Go for it, Eve. Just keep on lying. So, but then she immediately tells Sam, Pilar, and Luis, she's like, I've got a feeling that Teresa has escaped and Ethan helped her escape. Luis is very grateful. He's like, yeah, Ethan, thank you, man. Sam is indignant. He's like, we can't condone a jailbreak, Luis. We are cops. Your sister is a convicted felon on the run. And then Pilar points out, he's like, well, your son's with her. And he's like, I know, but that doesn't change anything. And Luis and Pilar like whisper their judgments at Sam for attempting to do his job. Like they very quietly judge him like, I can't believe you would turn in your own son. Do you have no loyalty?
Oh my God, the Los Fitzgeralds are a bunch of delinquents. Okay, all of them, and they all think they're above the law. It shouldn't apply to them.
This is one time when I'm all for it.
Right.
I get Sam saying like, oh well, I'm a cop and I have to uphold the law, but
it's the one time he tries to do his job properly, really, because we know he's a crooked cop. Yeah.
Exactly. The one time you actually try to do your job, it's to like get this girl executed. No.
And sell out your son.
She's getting herself executed. She had every opportunity to back out of this. This is on her.
She started. Maria started.
I agree. She is getting herself executed. However, in this portion of it, Sam is like, we need to get her back here so she can face lethal injection after she has her baby. Right. So we talking about Sam. We'll get to Teresa. We will get there.
I know. I know.
So Sam he does start to kind of hesitate. He is hesitant. To when there's 2 more those 2 cops are like, is that true? Sam, later on, like I'm sorry, I skipped a little bit, like, but I'm gonna fix it right now. Okay. So those two cops come in and they ask Sam, where's Teresa? Is it true that she is off getting tests done? And Sam hesitates to answer them. But Luis very happily corroborates Eve's lie. He's like, yeah, of course. And he's like smiling. So somebody should have known that he was like lying because he was like too happy when he is in like this horrible situation with his sister. But he's like, yes, my sister's off getting tests, just like Eve said. How about you guys go get some coffee? Take a load off. It's going to be a while. Get out of here. Go away, far, far, far away from here. And so those 2 cops just walk off. And Sam takes issue with this, but he doesn't say anything. So good on Sam, I guess, for that moment. He is at least struggling with this. he says he needs some time to think things through. And then he says, I need to talk to you alone, Luis. So then they go off and have their own little aside, which we're about to get to. Pilar goes to pray. And so let's talk about what Sam and Luis talk about, like the conversation that these two have. It was explosive, literally.
Mhm.
Yep.
It was.
Oh my God. So Sam, of course, tells Luis, we have to do the right thing. He's like, we took an oath to protect and serve. And Luis says, I'm not going to let you turn my sister in. And then he puts his hand on his gun holster. Like he starts hot for like immediately. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Puts his hand on his gun holster. Like, I'm not going to let you turn my sister in. And Sam says, I have to do my job, which is laughable. I have to do I have a laugh track? That's what I need.
Oh, we do. Yes.
I have to do my job. And then Luis says, well, I'm not going to let you do it. And he like grabs Sam because Sam was like walking off to make a phone call, which is stupid because later on he just uses his cell phone, but he's like walking off to call dispatch. Luis grabs him, pulls him back. Sam threatens him, like, get your damn hands off of me. Don't make me cite you for insubordination. You could lose your job. I would hate to see you lose your career over something like this. And it's like, if you're going to lose your career over anything, I guess it's okay for it to be like something this big, and Luis, I actually, at first I was like, Luis is being ridiculous. Like, I get he wants to save his sister, but she is a convicted felon. You are a police officer, and Sam is your boss. Like at one point, I was like, you are being kind of ridiculous. But then he's like, he brings up Sheridan, and he's like, I can't lose another person that I love. Oh, I was like, like this is the grief. It's the grief.
Desperation. Yeah.
I went from like, what's wrong with you, Luis, to like, what's wrong with you, Sam? Don't you know your friend is hurting?
Exactly. So they go back and forth about this for a while, and neither one of them are really being moved by the other. But eventually Sam says like, I'm going to call and there's nothing you can do about it. And Luis punches him. And then these two men start to fist fight, right? Like, or did Luis pull the gun first? Yeah.
He pulled the gun first.
He pulled the gun first. Well, he punches him first. There were so many things that happened.
He punched him twice.
It escalated so quickly.
Yeah, he punched Sam first. Sam falls to the floor. Sam gets up. He's like, I'm going to let that slide because I know you're hurting. Okay, good on Sam. Because if it would have been me, I probably would have beat his ass. Like, you punch me. That's crazy. He's like, I'm going to let that slide, but I still have to call. Then Sam pulls out his cell phone and he starts to dial the number. And he says, hey, this is Police Chief Sam. And Luis pulls out his gun. He's like, freeze. And Sam doesn't stop talking. And so he just rushes him, tackles him with his gun in his hand. So the gun goes off. The gun goes off because he had a gun in his hand, his finger on the trigger. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God. Again, for a minute, I was like, I don't know which one of these people is being more ridiculous. But
I'm siding with Sam because he's doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, it was Luis at the end of the day. The gun really, really turned it for me. I was like, oh, okay, what are you going to do? Shoot Sam in the hospital? You also are going to be on death row. What do you think that's going to do to your mother?
I think he was bluffing. I don't think he was ever intended to shoot Sam. He was just desperate and trying to, peacock maybe.
Yeah, well, Sam called his bluff and called the authorities, but he wasn't able to report what he knew, right?
Yeah, and I give credit to Sam. He can take a punch, and it's because of that gorgeous jawline that he has. Oh my God,
he can. Yeah, and I want to talk about actually like part of the conversation where they talk about before the gun goes off, where Luis is trying to reason with Sam, saying like, your son's with him too, and Ethan could lose his life in prison. He's like, because at first Luis is like, this isn't just about Theresa. Ethan could lose his life, and Sam says, well, helping a fugitive isn't a capital crime. And he's like, Luis says, well, he's an ex-Crane and he's a cop's son. What do you think they're going to do to him in prison? Like, do you think he'll be able to survive prison? But Sam isn't swayed by that either. So again, they try to make us believe that Sam is like this great stand-up noble guy, which I guess
for the most part, he does tend to be that.
Yeah, I guess he is. But there's like this new thing. And well, we'll get there. I'm gonna put a pin in his like nobleness and how he's like won't be swayed. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that for right now. But please remind me when Ivy shows up. Okay, talk about it. Okay, so yes, all of that happens. The gun goes off, and now let's talk about what's going on with Theresa and Ethan. No, let's talk about let's talk about what happens with Eve and Pilar. Eve gets some test results that show that Theresa has preeclampsia and she needs to deliver in a hospital, in a facility where they can take care of her. Otherwise, she and her baby could die. Pilar comes back from her praying and she overhears this. So that's like really important information for where we're going forward. Okay. Did I put the Ivy stuff later? I did. So let's talk about the Theresa. Let's go on to these idiot Bunny and Clyde.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So Theresa and Ethan are on the run, on the road. Theresa does, to her credit, Theresa tries to make Ethan go back. She's like, you need to go back. You need to save yourself. But he refuses, saying, I just need to get you somewhere safe and where you can have the baby. And Teresa's like, I'm so grateful to you for taking this huge risk. And I know, he says, I know you didn't kill Julian and I'm not going to let them kill you for something you didn't do. And he says, and I know you're just protecting the real killer, whoever it is. I'm sure they support what you're doing and is very grateful for your sacrifice. This was the weirdest conversation.
100%.
It was like their way of like getting her to think that he's talking about himself, but him not talking about himself, when this conversation could just go so much easier. Like, Ethan, I saw the tape of you doing it. Theresa, I didn't do it. Oh my God, really? And just go from there and realize, oh shit.
Yeah.
And a mistake.
From Teresa's perspective, also, if Ethan had done it,
right?
Why would he be talking to her in these terms? Why would he be saying it like this?
She is hearing what she wants to hear. Is what
I wrote down at this point. It should be obvious to Theresa that Ethan is not the killer, but somehow it isn't. So I think you're right, Maria. She's doing mental gymnastics there.
Because right now she's getting this sort of fantasy getting fulfilled, because here Ethan is rescuing her from the martyrism that she thinks she's doing. So she's already in fantasy land. Like, oh my God, I'm going to get the dream. Bonnie and Clyde, we're going to go off into the sunset and live in another country all together. And I'm going to have him to myself because I did this sacrifice for him and he's going to love me for it so much. And it's ridiculous because it's not based in reality.
Yeah.
And she should be thinking about her love life right now. There's bigger fish to fry, but not for our girl.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy it. I'll take that. But I just think it's the writing is so clunky here. It's so ridiculous. Nobody even talks like that. It's just, and like I said, it just doesn't make any sense that if I was Theresa and I believe that Ethan did it, why is he talking to me like this?
There's only two of us here.
Yeah. Whoever it is very grateful for your sacrifice. Whoever it is. Like, okay. So anyway, they get tailed by the state police. We think they're getting pulled over. Teresa's panicking. Ethan's like, we have to pull over. It is what it is. Like, I can't risk your and the baby's life in a high speed chase. And he tells Theresa to tell them that he kidnapped them. But then the cops just pass them by. But then they get a flat tire, because of course they do. And then Ethan changes the flat tire. I'm being nitpicky now, but I was always taught that if you get a flat tire and you have to pull to the side of the road, that everybody has to get out of the car. You can't change a tire with people inside of the car. That's what my dad taught me. He was like, you don't change a tire with somebody inside of the car, because when you jack up the car, it could fall. You don't
Makes sense.
People inside the car.
It's possible, and I think there was a time someone changed the tire and I didn't get out.
Yeah,
you'd be extra careful if you were pregnant, though. One would think.
Yeah.
It was a plot device so that she can then call Whitney.
Yeah.
Which again, stupid. You're on the run. Why are you calling people?
Baby, because she was so excited.
Oh, I know. That's what it is.
Happy.
She was so excited to be on the run with Ethan, because like you have pointed out, Maria, that she is in this like fantasy world. She absolutely is. And this is like it's her own personal romance novel. They're off on this whirlwind adventure together. Shrek and Donkey off on another whirlwind adventure.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
that's so funny.
So,
And she's already declaring Ethan loves me.
Yeah.
Well, also,
so
he's
Donkey
never
calls
said he
Whitney while
doesn't.
Shrek is changing the tire. And yeah, she's so excited. She tells Whitney, Ethan helped me escape. We're on the lam. That's what she says.
On the lam.
We're on the lam. He loves me. We're gonna be together forever. And then Whitney says, will you lose the love-struck lunacy long enough to stop and think? No one ever escapes from prison. And she's like, Ethan's gonna lose his license and go to jail. Like, this is crazy. But I love that line. Will you lose the love-struck lunacy long enough to stop and think?
I wrote it down.
That was some Tabitha level alliteration.
It was. And I just like the use of the word lunacy, because I think of my girl as a lunatic.
Lovable lunatic. Yep.
My girl's a lunatic. And honestly, y'all, I know I've been railing against Theresa a little bit the last few weeks. Like, I have been very frustrated with her. But I will say, this week, we're at like peak Theresa, and I'm loving it. I am loving
She's been so irresponsible. Maybe
really
it's because I just had babies. Think I'm viewing it from that point of how irresponsible she's been. Oh, well, anyway, we'll get to it.
She really is, but I and there's parts of it that I'm like, ugh, this is ugh. But something about it really resonates with me. So anyway, her brand of crazy really resonates with me.
She is demented.
She is. I love her. Okay, so she's so excited about this horrible situation she's in just because Ethan's there. And so Theresa then talks about how they can go to a country that won't extradite them, and since she still misses Julian Crane, she'll have enough money to finance them for the rest of their lives. Girl, what are you thinking? You think you're going to be able to use any of the Crane money? Frankly, I don't know how you were managing to use it in harmony.
Favorite moment. When with one sentence, he like bursts her bubble so quickly.
Yeah. Well, so Whitney says, listen, I don't want to, bring you down too much, but I don't think Ethan was meaning to spend the rest of his life with you. I don't think this was forever for Ethan. I think he was just trying to help you as a friend. But Teresa's not buying it. She's like, no, why would he risk so much? If not for me, he loves me so much. Why would he risk his whole life for me? Which is fair. Truthfully, that line of thinking is fair. This man is really, really risking it all for her. He is. That is happening.
He is. But that's because he also sees that the court systems are going extremely fast, and he's just trying to save her from death. Because at this point,
he blames himself.
They're facing death, and he is also blaming himself. You're right, Lisa.
Yes, those all of those things are true. And also what Theresa is saying is true, that he is risking his life and everything for her. All of those things are true at the same time, right? So it's and for a girl like Theresa, it makes sense that that's the leap that she makes, that he wants to be with her forever, right?
Of course. And on a side note, wasn't it kind of cute seeing Travis in Scrubs? being the fact that he was on the show Scrubs.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because he had stolen Scrubs, just if nobody remembers why he was in Scrubs.
Yeah.
He had stolen Scrubs to like sneak her out of the hospital, although they didn't even show us them sneaking out of the hospital, so that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, so the first time he's seeing him is now, and I'm like, oh my God, he's in Scrubs, and immediately I'm thinking of the show. I was like, that's weird foreshadowing.
Yeah. Well, Whitney asks her about her plans on delivering the baby. She's like, what are you going to do about delivering your baby? Like, are you even thinking about the life of you and your child? How are you going to do that? Teresa says to her, why are you being so mean to me? I don't know.
Anytime someone tries to put sense in her, she's always like, you're being mean to me. Let me live in my fantasy land. Girl, this is what's getting you in trouble.
I was so glad. Listen, I want to tell y'all something. I was getting a little concerned that I was going to hate Theresa for the rest of the show. I really was. I was like, ugh, am I going to hate Theresa forever? Because I was starting to kind of hate her. But no, this week I was like, yes.
Baby.
More of this, baby. She was like, why are you being so mean to me? I just loved it because she's delusional. She's out of her mind. Why are you being so mean to me? And Whitney's like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean to you, sweetie. I'm just trying to get you to think straight.
Thank you.
It just cracked me up. And so she asks her, you need to consider you might have a complicated birth. And Teresa's like, there's not going to be any complications. Women have been giving birth since the beginning of time, and lots of people have been delivering babies. Cab drivers, firemen, She says all these people, and then she says,
and none of them have an Ivy League education like Ethan.
That's exactly. And none of them have an Ivy League education like Ethan. Girl, you think that Harvard degree, that law degree, is going to help him deliver a baby?
Well, that's what Whitney says, right? She's like, okay, so he's a doctor now?
Yeah. Right, that's exactly
He's a lawyer and a doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, Ethan is one of the dumbest people on the show.
Yes.
We're not sure that law degree wasn't bought for him. We don't know.
He's a crane. They probably just handed it to him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust him anywhere near my reproductive organs. I simply would not. No.
And her comments of like women have been given birth for forever. Did she not realize the mortality rate of women before the intervention of medicine and hospitals?
Right. Yeah. They gave birth and then they died.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Women have been giving birth and dying for many years. Yes, girl. So it's not that crazy that you might have a complicated birth and die. It's really not that crazy.
I can't.
So Teresa says there will be no complications, and Ethan's going to deliver her baby, and they're going to live happily ever after. She has like these fantasies of how their life is going to be. The fantasy, for some reason, is set in like the courtyard of the Crane Mansion. Like it looks like the gazebo area in the Crane Mansion.
Because she's always rich in her fantasies too. She's always rich.
Well, wouldn't you be? Shit, I'm rich in all my fantasies too.
But she's talking about moving to another country, and then her fantasy is like 18 miles backward. Like
Yeah. And I looked it up. The only two Latin American countries that do not have an extrajudiciary treaty is Ecuador and Venezuela. Those fantasies did not look like either of those two countries.
Well, you never know. I don't know. Maybe they recreated there. That's in her head. Yo, we can't.
And
I will be critical of her.
Understand the inner machinations of Teresa's mind.
This is maybe an error though, because didn't Ethan say something about going to your mother's homeland?
Yes, that's coming up. So Whitney tries to convince Teresa that Ethan didn't mean to give up his whole life and run away with her to a different country. Teresa will not listen to her, but why should she? Honestly, this is par for the course for Teresa, and Teresa's already like, it's done. We're already gone, right? So, let's talk about what's going on with them at the hospital. Or should we finish with because Gwen comes to us. So let's do the hospital first, and then we'll come back to what's going on with Teresa and Ethan.
Yeah.
So we talked about Eve got the test results, saying that things going to get worse for Teresa if she doesn't get her ass to a hospital because she has preeclampsia. Pilar overhears this. Eve tries to comfort her because this new information is very upsetting, right? Either way, it seems like Theresa's gonna die. And that's when Rebecca and Ivy show up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just anxious to see if Theresa, they're like, oh, we just wanted to see if Theresa had her baby, right? Pilar tells them not to, she's like, don't you pretend to care about my daughter. I know you're looking forward to seeing her executed. Rebecca and Ivy very quickly discover that Theresa is gone, okay? And when they see that she's not in her bed, they're like, where is Theresa? Where's Theresa? Well, Whitney comes running into the scene and just blurts out, Theresa escaped. Bitch, what? Why would you do this? Why would you be yelling that in the hospital out loud? Like, you go to your mom, you whisper it, you ask her, hey, mom, can I talk to you? When you tell you something? But no, she just blurts it out to everybody in the
This
vicinity.
whole episode, Whitney does things very overtly that ostensibly she's supposed to be keeping on the download. Download. Good.
The download. Let me be clear about Whitney this week. She annoyed the shit out of me. She's irritating me to no end at this point. Yeah, anyway. That's all I'm gonna say about that for right now.
Yep.
But this was irritating. This was one of the irritating things she did this week. She runs in, she exclaims, Theresa escaped. And then Ivy, of course, becomes completely outraged. She's like, I'm calling the police. This is outrageous. And then Pilar stops her, says, maybe you should know who's driving the getaway car before you call the police. And Ivy's like, no, not Ethan. He would never do something like this. And then Pilar says, well, maybe you don't know your son like you think you do. And then Ivy says, dear God, what else could Theresa do to ruin Ethan's life? Now, this pissed me off because, lady, this is your fault. This is your fault. You started
this.
She started this. We can talk. Y'all can talk. I know people have. Theresa has confessed to a murder she didn't commit. She's doing this to herself and yada yada. But the truth is, she's not doing this to herself. She's been fucking victimized by two fucking bitches who wanted to have her executed. And she followed along their plan. She acted in the way that they knew she would act.
That's what they're guilty of, is just knowing her lunacy.
She has been victimized and manipulated into the situation. Right. Let's be clear.
She's unstable.
Yeah, and they've taken advantage of an unstable child. Let's be clear. So, to kill her. So the fact that Ivy is now talking about what else won't Theresa do to ruin Ethan's life, baby, you did this, and you need to take a good long look in the mirror at who.
I was kind of shocked. Yeah. How evil Ivy and Rebecca actually are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And look at who ruined whose life, because if we really want to talk about who has been ruining Ethan's life, all of the things that she says are ruinous for him are things that she did, right? The fact that she kept his paternity from him for his entire life, that's what started all of this.
Mm-hmm.
All of it.
What she's mad is that Theresa ruined her scheme.
Yes. Her scheme.
That's what she's mad about.
But she didn't do anything to ruin Ethan's life. That's been his mama. That's probably why he didn't call her to say goodbye. I wrote that in my notes later, but we'll get there. So that pissed me off. Anyway, Rebecca, because she doesn't really care about Ethan, obviously, she really just wants to see what Theresa did. She's like, well, we still have to alert the authorities. And she tries to grab Ivy's cell phone, but Ivy's like, you will not do this, and takes the phone back. And she says, my son will not be a fugitive on the run. And then we all hear a gunshot, which is the gunshot from Luis's gun from him tackling Sam. So they all go run.
Yeah, that whole fight. I will say, during that fight, when he was gonna call, did you not notice that he's not only was gonna call, he was doing it in his face. He's like, there's no fucks giving. I am calling the authorities. Yeah, that was the best.
Yeah, because he was calling as Luis had his gun pulled on him, right? Like
That's what I loved. He was calling his bluff. Like, yeah, okay, I'm still dialing.
Like, you're not gonna shoot me. You're not gonna shoot me. So yeah, they all go running, thinking maybe it was Theresa getting shot by the police for some reason. Anyway, they find Sam and Luis on top of Sam. And very quickly, the misunderstanding is cleared up because they think that Ivy thinks that Luis has shot Sam. He's like, I'm fine. He didn't shoot me. I'm fine. And so they all Sam and Luis get up and they explain about what they're fighting about and all the Theresa complications and everything. Sam and Luis go back and forth about calling the authorities. Pilar says to Sam, maybe if they have enough time, they'll just come back on their own. Sam is like, okay, maybe. And it should be noted that Ivy is the person who finally really gets Sam to not call the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Although he is the police, but anyway, Ivy is the one who, after his best friend and, has told him, like, I don't do this to my sister. He's fighting him. Pilar's begged him. Even Eve has asked him.
Mm-hmm.
It was Ivy. It was Ivy that got through to him in the end. And she didn't have to do much.
He asked the exact same way, but like less. Yeah. He was like, all right.
Yeah. She didn't have to just bat her eyelashes at him, hold his hand. Our son, Sam, our son. And he was like, okay, fine. But they're going to find people are going to find out sooner or later.
Yeah.
So, right now, Sam's not calling the folks on them. Pilar overhears Rebecca telling Ivy, she's saying, oh, it looks like things are still going to go our way. Theresa's going to die one way or another, either by lethal injection or Mother Nature. And Pilar says, you bitches, both of you. And she gives Rebecca a good heart slap. It was great.
It was good.
It was great.
It was good.
And I know I made a point to look at what Ivy's reaction to Pilar was, because I've been thinking and saying, like, it's weird to me that Ivy is so gung-ho about having Theresa killed and Theresa dying, considering the relationship she's had with Pilar.
She doesn't care about Pilar.
She doesn't care about Pilar. Clearly doesn't care about Pilar. But it was, you could read on her face that it did seem like she felt bad. Like when she looked at Pilar and saw Pilar walking away, it did seem that she maybe felt kind of bad. So I don't know, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. So let's get back to Theresa and Ethan on the road again. Now they've got the tire fixed. And Theresa says to him what she had told Whitney, saying, we're going to have plenty of crane money to live on, and maybe we can go to South America. And then Ethan sets her straight, saying, like, you're not going to be able to have any access to the crane money. Your accounts are going to be frozen. And this is when he says the thing about, like, and all this is all moving too fast. You're talking about going to your mother's homeland. She didn't say anything about any specific country. She said South America. So I don't know. We're back to that. It's been a while since they started this, since they talked about, like, Pilar's homeland. I thought maybe they stopped doing it, but no, they haven't. We're still,
and they're still not specific. They're still not saying like Mexico or anything.
No,
also,
the old country
isn't in South America.
No, not at all. Mexico is part of North America. So once again, they are completely wrong and off. But fine, whatever.
Unless it is Ecuador or Venezuela.
It's a whole continent. Yeah, unless right now they think it's, her homeland is Ecuador.
Since those are the two that doesn't have the treaty.
They need to get somewhere, right? So he's like, right now... Oh, I wrote in my notes, she starts going on one of her signature loony loops.
Oh my God. That's exactly what it should be called, a loony loop.
A loony loop. Yep.
She's on one of her signature loony loops, getting all whipped up into a frenzy, saying, it's going to be so wonderful. You, me, and the baby. Oh my gosh. It's like, we're going to be together forever, right, Ethan? We're going to be together forever. And he's like, slow down. All this talk about your mother's homeland. And he's like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to after you deliver the baby.
And let's point out, though, that since in the car, she's in labor. And she is hiding it from him. Because for her, it's more important for her to get time with Ethan before the baby is born than the actual health of her baby.
Well, she wasn't in labor at this point. They stopped to get food. When she goes into that first like tizzy and all of that, she wasn't in labor yet. He stops at a grocery store after she he says, we'll cross that bridge once you deliver the baby, right? And she says, well, I don't care where we go as long as we're together. We are gonna be together, aren't we? You still love me. Otherwise, why would you be risking so much to help me? Please, Ethan, tell me you still love me. And he says, Theresa, I can't tell you that. Honestly, I don't know. And he says, I just want to get you somewhere safe. And then I was planning to return to face the consequences. And she's like, you can't do that. Not after everything I've done for us. And he's like, what? Oh my God, I love
Looney Loop.
Girl,
Looney Loop.
Not after everything I've done for us. And he's like, what? And so she covers saying, you can't go back after everything we've done to get away. And this is when he stops to get food and he leaves Theresa alone in the car. And she tries to convince herself that Ethan's going to come around, that they just need more time together. And this is when she starts having contractions. And she's like, God, no, baby, you can't come now. You can't not now. You have to wait. You have to stay in. And you have to remember this girl's like 18, 19. She doesn't know anything about her body, about giving birth. I mean, she thought that her birth control worked the first day she took it.
Well, that's what.
That's because the doctor told her that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Doctor of the year.
She said it could be Ethan. And Ethan's like, no, you took it an hour before, so no.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Y'all got me on that because I forgot that Dr. Death also.
And for how long are we going to continue to use she's a child excuse?
Only for a little bit
She
longer.
needs to grow up. She needs to grow up already.
Only for a little bit longer, but she is a child. She is a baby having a baby. I'm gonna give Theresa grace because she's never had a baby before, right? And she's very, 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 very young. And she's
got undiagnosed bipolar disorder.
Yeah, she's mentally ill.
She's not well.
She's unwell.
She needs assistance to get through.
So I have to give Theresa some grace. And like I said, I'm gonna use that only for a little while longer. Once she has this baby thing, because we're already getting into like a new phase of Theresa, but this is like the transitionary period. Like her having this baby, I think is like after she has this baby, to me, that's when she's like grown up Theresa, in my opinion.
When she gets bangs.
When she gets bangs.
Oh my God, but that's not till way later.
She's a woman after she gets the bangs.
She gets in and out of bangs.
Listen, it is a canon event, right? Getting bangs. I had the ugliest. Oh my God, I had the ugliest fucking.
You did?
Straight bangs in 2000. I feel like 2011, maybe 2011, 2012. Like that bob, that straight bob with the straight across bangs was really, really, really popular. And I got that haircut, and it was fucking hideous. If you get on my Facebook and go all the way back to 2011, you'll find pictures of me with those horrible, horrible bangs. But whew, they were ugly.
It's a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage for women.
But yeah, like I said, we all have to go through it. And honestly, I thought it was super cute at the time.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Looking back,
but at the time, everyone was doing it. I mean, I had 90s bangs. So I had the big bangs, the like over-encompassing
My bangs started from here.
With layers. Yes. Yeah, my bangs would start from here. And it was like, the bangs were in layers. Okay, the bang had layers.
Hilarious. But at least there's some volume. I feel like mine were like so flat on my forehead. It was disgusting. But anyway, voluminous like bangs are at least there's something there. Like,
but then you needed to keep them to hide the zits that you got from having so much hair on your
having the hair on my forehead. Yes,
and then you couldn't grow them out because you had to keep hiding the zits that continued.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, of bangs. So
anyway, Theresa.
Back to Theresa spiraling out of control.
Spiraling.
Yes, this girl goes into labor and decides to hide it. I mean, it makes as much sense as anything else she's done.
Yeah, it's par for the course. This is her.
It makes as much sense as anything else she's done at this point.
She thinks her baby knows not to come, doesn't she? She thinks the baby's in on the plan with her.
Yeah. For someone who believes in fate, she never actually listens to things that are actually happening that are fate. Like when your child is born is undetermined, that's fate.
It only applies when it's in her favor.
Yes.
When fate is working in her favor. Yeah. So Ethan comes back. She pretends like she's fine, and they go to the Crane cabin. This is the big hideout that Ethan thought of to take her to.
Because it's not going to be the first place they check, right?
He
Never.
even says in the car. Once they figure out you're gone, the Crane properties are going to be the first place they check, so we can't stay at the cabin long.
So let's
Why
go
are we
there.
going there in the first place?
Right, so let's go there. Right.
He sucks. He's so bad. I don't like him.
So bad.
So
and
anyway,
yet she wants him to deliver the baby.
But you know what? She doesn't think he's an idiot like we do. She thinks he's the greatest, most wonderful thing that's ever walked the earth.
He says we're going to have to be smart if we want to escape. And I wrote in my notes, well, you're fucked then. If you two have to be smart, you just turn yourselves in now.
Just turn yourselves in, y'all. There's no way you two bird brains are gonna get away with this. So anyway, they get
poor
to the
baby
cabin. Oh yeah, that poor baby.
That poor baby getting mixed with these two.
Never had a chance.
Oh my God. That should be the Passion sequel, actually.
The reboot, yes.
That should
Little
be the
Ethan,
reboot.
following little Ethan.
Yeah, but he should develop all the loony loops of his mother, but like the dumbness of Ethan.
Oh my God, this child would need 2 paras. Okay. It's bad enough Theresa doesn't have hers. She's calling her para. No help.
He needs one for each gene pool. Bless him.
100%.
Little Ethan.
Yeah. Gwen, I guess Gwen is kind of like Ethan's para.
Yeah.
Right, and Whitney is like Teresa's.
Whitney is Teresa's. Okay, so they get to Crane cabin. Theresa continues to try and hide that she's in labor. Ethan makes her something to eat, tells her to go lay down. And then he calls Gwen, and he tells her on the phone that it's over between them forever. And then he explains why. He explains what's going on, that he's on the run with Theresa, and he drops so many hints that they're at the fucking cabin that even I was like, well, Gwen's obviously going to show up. Like, he drops
It's like maybe he wanted her to figure it out so that she shows up.
Maybe. I can't prove he didn't.
He basically was like, I can't say where we are, but it rhymes with schmain schmabbin. Is essentially what he said. He's like, you'll never figure it out, but it rhymes with schmain schmabbin. I gotta go.
I gotta go. This is goodbye forever.
Yeah.
Here's the zip code that I'm
Which is the actual noble thing you would do if you really love someone and you don't want them to go through heartache. Like, he's willing, like, if you really love someone, you're willing to let them go.
He wouldn't have called her in the
them.
first damn place. I don't know. In my opinion, like, if you really want to, I don't know. He's like, I just wanted to call and say goodbye forever. I guess
he deserves a call if he's going to disappear forever. And I think you're giving him too much credit. I don't think he did it on purpose.
Why didn't he call his mother? If it's like, I'm saying my goodbyes, you didn't call your mother. You called.
He's trying the rest of his 3 siblings.
No. I'm just saying,
not interested
because he loves her.
Remember, he's in his 20s.
Remember, he's in his 20s. Why would he call his mother?
His 20s.
Teresa didn't call her mother. She called Whitney.
20s.
That's true. That's true. Got a point. She did call Whitney. I'm sorry. This show is
Teresa doesn't think it's goodbye forever, though. Teresa thinks it's going to work out. So she's just calling her best friend to say,
they called their paras. They called their paras.
They called their paras. So he explains everything that's going on. He says, I want you to have a beautiful life. I want you to move on from me and forget me. I don't want you to have to wait until I get out of prison, because I'm definitely going to be going to prison. I see you wiping away a tear over there, Maria. I wasn't feeling like
touching.
that.
It was touching.
I was touched, but not in the good He says, so we need to end our relationship now. And she very adamantly is like, no, Ethan, I will not let you end this relationship. I don't care what happens. I will wait for you. And then she's like, why would you do this for Theresa? And he says how he feels responsible for the situation that Theresa's in. And Gwen says, you know, she was only looking out for her own interests in killing Julian. And because he says everything Theresa did, she did for me. And Gwen's like, do you really think that was some kind of selfless thing? She really was looking out for her own interests, which isn't true. But I also see why Gwen feels that way. But
she did do it for her own interest, because she's doing it to martyr so that Ethan could look at and pay attention to her.
No, she
was never willing to die. She was hoping to use Crane money to get out of it, but she was doing it for the attention of getting Ethan to pay attention to her.
He says everything she did for me. First of all, I'm talking about all of the things that with Julian, right? Like the reason that she was in the situation that she was in and why she felt like she needed to kill Julian from Ethan's perspective. He says she did all of that for me. And what I'm not going to let you do, Maria, is act like Theresa is not truly doing this because she feels bad for Ethan. Like the girl is unwell and she is doing something that she is stupid and she shouldn't be doing and makes no sense. But I am of the mind that like this is a very crazy and selfless act. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid. Like I said, two things can be true at the same time. She can be doing this thing that is selfless, and it can also be a very stupid thing and be completely unnecessary. What she's doing, what she did in confessing to this murder was completely unnecessary. But she did it for Ethan. I believe that wholeheartedly. Why else would she confess to this murder?
To get Ethan.
But
it was to get Ethan, which is self-serving. She didn't do it for Ethan. She did it to get Ethan.
I don't think, again, like I said, two things can be true. So maybe part of it was Ethan will come back to me if he sees this selfless thing I did. But if she was doing this to get Ethan, why wouldn't she just tell him, I'm going to take the fall for you?
I think she thinks they're like Romeo and Juliet. She thought that he was risking his life by killing Julian for her. So she's like, and I'm going to risk my life to save you. I think she's in a loony loop.
I think she's in a loony loop too. And I think that I don't think it, I'm just not gonna let it rest at she's doing all of this just to get Ethan. Cause this is a crazy, like, yes, the girl is crazy, but she's on death row. If she was doing all of this just to get Ethan, when the sentence came down and it was like, oh girl, you're not getting a slap on the wrist. You're going to the lethal injection chamber right after you give birth to that baby. She would have been like, no, Ethan did it. There's a tape. It should be in the evidence locker with my fucking purse. Y'all should have looked at it.
But if she's talking about she was willing to risk dying for him, then she should have realized that was part of the plan. Like, you were willing to die for him, but you're not, because you're upset that
she was willing to die for him. She never recanted. She refuses to recant. She is willing to die for him.
Devil's advocate, though, she does think he can launch an appeal, so she doesn't think it's completely over.
She doesn't actually want to die. She wants Ethan to rescue her, to save her.
Yes, she wants him to save her, but this again, it is not all about, oh, I'm doing this. This is not some kind of scheme to get Ethan back. It's not a scheme to get Ethan back. That's not like the core of this. At the core, it really is this delusional girl thinking Ethan did this for me. I don't want him to die or go to jail. I'll take the blame for it. That's really what it boils down to. I think
she's lost in the love story she's written in her head.
And she thinks that maybe by a byproduct of her doing this is that once he finds out, because she also thinks that Ethan knows he did it. Right? She thinks
and he's staying quiet.
And he's staying quiet.
So romantic.
Which is a whole other issue, considering the fact that, dude, why would you want to be with a man who would let you take the fall for a murder that he committed?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
He's going to get her off on appeal and it's going to be all okay.
He's going to get her off. First of all, she didn't even think she was going to get convicted, because she's like, yeah, I'm going to confess to this murder, but I have Crane money. They're going to get me off. So in a way, it is a scheme because you just didn't think it was going to go this far because you thought you were going to be fine.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a true
my
risk.
My point is not that it's not a scheme. Yeah, it's a scheme, but was the scheme to get Ethan back? No. The scheme is not to get Ethan back. The scheme is to get Ethan off because she thought that he had done that because of her, and she didn't want to live with the fact that he died. If he died, that he killed Julian because of her. That's what has been written. I'm just telling y'all what was written by the Passions writers. That is the story that they have told us.
Yeah. I'm seeing it as she's trying to be this martyr, but she's not really being a martyr. Because she isn't willing to die. She doesn't want to die.
Both. I think that as you know, Passions writers often contradict themselves and they rewrite whatever's convenient for that week. So I think initially it was, oh my God. I think the core of it was, he can't die. I have to protect him. But then they did pepper in a lot of dialogue in which she would tell Whitney, they're not going to kill me. I'm pregnant. I've got all the money in the world. Like the worst I'm going to get is a slap on the wrist. Like she has she says like, look, it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
like,
Rebecca put that in her ear. Rebecca put that in her, planted that seed.
Right.
Because we know, Rebecca is the puppet mistress
to
here.
encourage her to confess. Rebecca and Ivy were both like, you'll be fine. Like no one would blame you for killing Julian. I mean, certainly. And then you had all these reasons. You were victimized and, like, what are they going to do to you? You've got all this money. Like they led her to believe it would be okay. So in that sense, like, I guess Maria's saying, like, if she thinks it's going to be okay for her, then like falling on the sword means like, it'll be better for me than it would be for you. But like at the end of the day, she's still trying to save Ethan.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
We've
herself.
been here for a while.
We've thought about this more than the writers ever did once again. So, yeah.
I mean, then again, we don't know what it was like in the writers' room.
We need to get some writers on here. We need to.
We do.
I've talked so much shit about them. I don't know.
They'll just blame each other, which is fine.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to this story and what's going on. So Gwen, he was on the phone with Gwen. He tells her that he doesn't want her to wait for him. She says, no, I'm not letting you end our relationship like this. Why would you do this for Theresa? He feels responsible. All of that, right? And then she tells him, you don't let Theresa take advantage of your good heart. You need to think about yourself for a change. I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna keep going because we can fight about it, and I don't want to fight about it. So,
I believe her. So go ahead, keep going.
So then, Ethan, she tries to get him to tell her where he is. Ethan won't tell her where they are, but he, like I said, like Lisa said, he's like, I can't tell you exactly, but it rhymes with Shmaine Shabin. Like, yeah. It's like, yeah, it's like obvious where they are. And
it's in the mountains and it's very cold. Like
he's like, we have a lot of memories here and other places. Oh, okay. Well, I know exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, she shows up immediately, obviously, and she tells him, I love you and I'm not going to let you do this alone. And they embrace in the living room. Theresa, who is in full-blown labor, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Comes downstairs and comes into the living room and finds the two of them embracing. And she storms in and she says, what is going on? Why is Gwen here?
Lunacy.
Ethan explains that he called Gwen to say goodbye and that she figured out where they are. And but he's glad that she's there. He says, I'm glad she's here because I needed to see her. And Theresa's like, how could you call Gwen? And he's like, well, we've been friends for a long time and I just wanted to say a proper goodbye. And so
she's like, all right, you said your goodbye. You can leave now.
Hilarious. No, this was hilarious. She looks at Gwen. She says, all right, you said your goodbye. Now, please leave, Gwen. Go. I wrote in my notes that she says, you said your goodbye. Now get out of here.
It's not in her love story. No. Gwen does not feature.
No, she's not in the love story. And I love how she accused Gwen of stalking them. I'm
like,
are you kidding me, girl?
She's stalking us. This woman, I don't understand how Ethan feels safe around Theresa. That's really,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I feel like if someone spoke to me the way Theresa speaks to him, I'd be like, I'd always have my phone, like I'd just be sharing my location with at least 8 friends, right? I'd be like, my finger would be on 911, so you can like hit the button a bunch of times to emergency call. Like, I would never feel safe with her because she's gonna go like full like misery.
That she's stalking him. That when Ethan said he called her, she's like, "How could you?" As like a jilted lover. I'm like, "Girl, calm down."
Yeah, she thinks they're together. Like she.
Well, that's that. That's the thing.
Were you like
she hasn't yet been told that they got back together. Oh, I know it is. Oh, I know it is.
So, Gwen then says to Theresa, like, if you love Ethan, then you'll let him do the best thing for him, which is giving up on this crazy plan and coming home with me. And she tries to convince Ethan to come back with her, saying, you have choices. You have choices, Ethan. Don't choose this. Choose me. Pick me. Pick yourself, really. And so she says, we love each other and we were just starting to rebuild a relationship together. And Ethan says, I want you to start your life without me. I need you to move on without me because this is the choice I have made. And then he explains that he has this plan to fly out of there on a helicopter. And he goes outside to give the pilot of the helicopter a phone call. And he gives the pilot instructions of where to land, and he tells him, and it's absolutely the most important thing to me is that you be discreet. In a helicopter?
The helicopter.
How can you be discreet in a helicopter? There are a few things that are more conspicuous than a helicopter. Like, I don't know. And also the fact that Ethan is even making demands on this pilot who is doing him a huge fucking favor. Because let's remind everybody, it's not like Ethan has any money to pay for this, right? Like, he called up a favor from a crane pilot that he said he trusted. And you can't be telling me, giving me instructions and orders and stuff if I'm doing you a favor, talking about it is very important to me. One thing I insist upon, that's what he says. One thing I insist upon is that you be discreet. You can't insist anything of me, sir. I'm helping you, not the other way around.
While landing the loudest aircraft that it winds fly, like everyone sees and hears a helicopter.
Yeah. And apparently a storm is coming in. He makes mention of like, I think we can make it out of here before the storm. So while he's outside, Gwen and Theresa have a fight. Gwen calls Theresa a selfish bitch and tells her she deserves to die. Didn't love that. Then she gives a whole speech about Ethan throwing everything away for her. And they go back and forth. So, Maria, if you have any of that dialogue that you would like to share, because this is where I kind of tapped out, you can.
I basically have that Gwen won't leave without Ethan. She reminds him that he has choices. She's worried about the future, their future. They were trying to build a life. You actually went over all of this. Theresa misinterprets the conversation and says that Ethan wants her out.
Yeah.
Gwen calls her a selfish bitch and deserves to die. Theresa declares that Gwen accepted, she won, Gwen lost, and deal with it.
Yeah.
And Gwen reminds her that this isn't about winning or losing, it's about life and death. Like, she's trying to plead with this girl.
Yeah. I want to talk about that. I'm glad you made note of that, because I didn't write that in my notes, but that was something that definitely stuck with me, where Theresa's like, face it, Gwen, I've won and you lost. Baby, look at yourself. Look at your life. Look at your choices.
What have you won?
You very much not won. You've won nothing. You've won nothing.
Nothing. And again, this isn't about winning or losing.
It's not.
Like, it's your life, the baby's life, Ethan's life, the whole predicament, the choices everyone's made. And it's like, I won, you lost, get out. But did you even? Because Ethan called her.
Well, and then Gwen tells her, well, Ethan and I made love. Ethan made love to me, passionate love to me. And he told me he loves me. He always loved me and always will. This sets Theresa off. Teresa's like, you're a liar. You're a liar, Gwen. So they just keep arguing about Ethan back and forth. Teresa's like, I don't believe you. And then Gwen just keeps calling her selfish and that she only thinks about herself and she needs to think about Ethan. And if she really loved Ethan, then she wouldn't be doing all of this. And then Theresa blurts out, I was ready to die for Ethan. And Gwen is like, wait, what? And of course, Theresa covers that saying, I was ready to I killed Julian for Ethan or whatever lie she told. And then eventually all of this arguing back and forth boils down to Gwen calling Theresa delusional and storming off. She's like,
I've got the actual whole quote if you want it, because it is my burn of the week this week.
Give it, please.
Go ahead.
Why would Ethan throw his life away for a cheap tramp like you who's done nothing but lie and cheat? You are so delusional. It's pathetic. Burn.
Burn. Yeah. You are so delusional. It's pathetic. There's a lot of delusion here. There is. I do. When she had the conversation with Whitney, where she was like, why would he do all of this if he didn't want to be with me? I was like, okay, I can kind of get where she's coming from with that. But once Gwen shows up and he's like, I called her and I basically told her where we are. It's like, girl, maybe.
And when Gwen said we made love, I noted that Theresa actually covered her. I wrote she covered her ears like a child because she didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. She didn't want to hear it.
She did.
And she was telling her we were getting our lives back together. It was going to be me and him like it used to be. And Teresa's like, no, that's a lie. No, I can't believe it. Ethan called her. Like, can you not put two and two together? There's obviously something there. And you just don't want to see it because you think it's Ethan and Theresa when there is no Ethan and Theresa. He's helping you, but he wasn't planning on staying with you. He just doesn't want you to die.
Right. So Gwen goes to another room. She gets a call from Rebecca, who's giddy to tell her what's going on with Theresa, but Gwen cuts her off and like yucks her yum. Is like, I already know what's going on with Theresa. And then Rebecca's like, well, I bet there's something you don't know about Theresa's condition. She has preeclampsia. She could die. This is great for us, Gwenny. Right? And Gwen's like, well, somebody has to tell Theresa that she needs to get to a hospital. And Rebecca tries to convince Gwen not to tell Theresa about her medical condition. She's like, this is a good thing for us, Gwen. Like, you don't have to tell her. You don't have to tell her anything. I think, obviously, Rebecca's disgusting. So,
yeah,
obviously, that's disgusting.
I mean, that was her whole plan all along anyway, was for Theresa to die. So, like she said, it'll either be death by cops, execution of lethal injection, or die when she goes into labor. Like, for her, it's like win-win-win.
Yeah. She hit the jackpot. To her. So this is when
Gwen has a heart and she's like, we're gonna help her. There's a child.
She got the conscience obviously from the dad's side.
Yeah,
she does have a conscience. Yeah.
God, I'd love to meet him.
So
I know, right?
Teresa's like in labor. She starts, and she obviously is so stressed out too, right? So like there's got to be so many, like her blood pressure must be crazy right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she starts going into labor again, like having contractions. She's doubled over in pain. She falls to the floor. She's laying on the floor at one point. She manages to get back up on her feet. Sorry. We find out that the chopper is on its way. And get to the chopper. And
discreetly.
The discreet chopper. And Ethan comes back in after Theresa gets back to her feet, and he's like, you're in labor. Are you in labor? And she lies again. She's like, no, I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little sick, whatever. And he's like, well, the chopper's almost here. It's time for us to go. Well, Gwen comes back and you can tell that at first she wasn't going to say anything. Like she was like, I don't know if I want to say anything, but she finally does say it and tells them that Theresa needs to get proper medical care because she has preeclampsia. Theresa doesn't believe her. She's like, she's lying. How could she even know that? Gwen explains that she got a phone call from her mother and that everybody's at the hospital looking for Theresa, worried about Theresa, and that they need to get to the hospital. But Theresa, Gwen hands Ethan her phone. She's like, here, you call the hospital. You talk to them and ask them. Theresa grabs the phone and is like, no, throws it across the room. Gwen's line here, I did not write it down. Who wrote it? Because it was hilarious. If nobody wrote it down, I will paraphrase. Did anybody write it down?
Yeah, it was no, go ahead.
That was a pointless, childish thing to do. Ethan has his own phone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That was so funny.
Because it was childish. Like, she's just overreacting.
Yeah.
Over everything, and she's just mad. There was actually a great back and forth before, like, Ethan got back, where Theresa claimed that Ethan found real love with her and that Ethan and Gwen were only together out of obligations because of their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And Gwen reminds her that Ethan feels responsible for her because she thinks he got Theresa into this mess. He's helping her because he's a decent guy and doesn't want her to die, that he will leave the country, but then leave her to go back to Gwen. And by then his life will already be over. And that's where Gwen then calls her a coward, and Theresa snaps back, I am not a coward, and that she was ready to die for him. And that's where you picked up about, what do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
You were going to die for him. I just remember that was actually a really good dialogue between them.
Yeah, it was. So anyway, Ethan comes back and they argue about Ethan for a while. Sorry, he doesn't come back. He was standing there that whole little time when Gwen tells them about Theresa's preeclampsia. Ethan at first doesn't know who to believe, what to believe. They both kind of argue, and then Ethan finally says, Theresa's right. Words you never want to have to speak.
Never.
Ethan says, Theresa's right. We have to go. I have to take my chances. And so that's where
But it's being interpreted differently, because Theresa's seeing it as, I won. He wants to be with me. And it's, no, he doesn't want you to die. That's the whole point. Like, this is the whole point of what he's doing this for.
Yeah.
Not because of this fantasy idea of, like, running away together and having a life together, which is how she's taking it as, like, yep, I won. He doesn't want Gwen. He wants me instead. Because she made it into, like, a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I ended with them this week. Y'all have anything to add? That's the end of my notes.
I still had a couple other points. Ethan thinks this is a good idea that Gwen isn't there when they leave. She tries to stop them. She tells him that Theresa has eclampsia. You did that. Theresa doesn't trust Gwen. We did that. Theresa tries to convince herself that she isn't in labor. She's trying to convince herself, like, I'm not in labor.
Yeah, she's like, I'd know if there was something wrong with my pregnancy. I don't have preeclampsia.
Yeah, at one point she says something like, I know my body better than you do, Gwen. It's like, okay, babe, that's not...
So where the pregnancy expert comes in, obviously, because I was having twins, I was kind of watched very closely. So the more they kind of look at you, the more they thought I had preeclampsia at one point. And you don't know. They were like, it could be nothing, could be something. We're going to monitor this. Thankfully, everything was perfect. But you don't know. And you do all the tests the doctors want you to do, and you wait for the results. You do not assume you know your body better than doctors or science.
Yeah.
Theresa does, though, because she's Theresa.
No, of course.
Well, she
knows
well,
everything.
to be fair, she says she knows her body better than Gwen, and she doesn't believe that Gwen is telling her the truth. So
yeah, because she
Not
thinks
in
that
this
Gwen
instance,
is
she doesn't.
scheming. Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to Chad and Whitney and what's going on with these two.
Ugh.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's the new Shantonio, is Chad and Whitney.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is so frustrating. And at first I was like, yes, finally, we're going to move on. But no, of course we're not. So.
No. You're excited for like a moment because you're like, oh, they're going to finally be together. And it's like.
They do this all the time. So I should have known better. They do this anytime Chad and Whitney, like, it seems like they're getting back together, they always like tear them apart again. Like, and it's always Whitney with the same exact excuse.
Yeah.
So anyway, Whitney finds Chad in the hospital, brings him up to speed on the whole Theresa escape, the escape from Alcatraz with Theresa. And he's like, damn it, I can't believe he went through with it. She's like, wait, you knew? He's like, yeah, I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't think he would really go through with it. And so whatever. They then stop talking about Theresa and Ethan and start to argue about Simone. Because Chad, of course, wants to tell Simone the truth, and Whitney is not feeling that, and they argue about Simone. Meanwhile, Kay is having a conversation with Simone, where Simone talks about how if Whitney was trying to take Chad from her, she would make her pay. And Kay tells her, yeah, that's what I was worried about between you and Whitney. I don't want a boy to come between you and your sister. And I'm so worried about your temper. And they're showing us, it seems like all of a sudden, they're trying to show us that Simone has a temper like TC. Am I the only one picking up on that?
Now you've said it.
Now that you said it, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They were not showing us that before. But now they are showing us like, oh, Simone has a temper. Like this is the first time I'm hearing of Simone having a temper, because Kay slapped her clear across the face and she did not react. So, and if this girl had a temper, she would have beat that girl's ass right there across that hot tub that day. But this is the first time they've established that Simone has some sort of temper. And now Kay of all people is telling her like, I'm just so worried about your temper, Simone. Again, I will cite the fact that Kay was the one that slapped Simone.
She's had a lot of patience with Kay, because you would want to slap Kay a lot if you were hearing every other day about how she's going to get Miguel.
Yep.
But now we're saying in the story that Simone has a temper. Fine, whatever. And so
it bothers me that it's about like allowing this person to have their crazy temper that you have to tiptoe around, as opposed to like getting that person, like getting that temper under control. You know what I mean? It's the same strategy that they have with TC, which is like, your father's murderous rage, like what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Oh,
better not overcook that. Don't overcook those eggs. He'll murder you. It's just tiptoeing around the insane, as opposed to like helping them.
It was sort of like said Eve had said, Simone can't take a heartbreak. She's not as strong as you, Whitney. She's so fragile. And that was her mother saying that. Everyone's going to get the heart broken at some point. What? Eve's a doctor. Why was she saying Simone cannot possibly get her heart broken?
At one point, Whitney even said that she's trying to keep Simone from turning into Theresa, which is like, whoa, that's Fred. That was a really bad slam.
Listen, it's because of what Eve said to her last week, which we get a flashback of that this week as well. But let's get to it. Let's talk about it. So, Simone decides after her conversation with Kay, because Simone's all mixed up for some reason, she's completely delusional. This girl's so constantly being like, well, I don't know what to believe. I just don't know what to believe. I mean, you've seen them embrace numerous times.
Many times.
Like you know that they are together all the time. You never see him with you. You're never with Chad. I've never seen her with Chad, really, unless Whitney is there. So what do you mean you don't know what to believe? This man has never once told you y'all were together. And yes, he told you he loved you, but that was like well over a year ago, when he was bleeding profusely, delirious, and dying. I just don't know why you think y'all are together, and that you don't, and you're like, I don't know what to believe.
And she was asking Kay, are they an item or not? Tell me. I've written, why does she think that Kay would know better than her about this guy's relationship status?
But wasn't Chad dating that girl during that party? They were like all together, and Simone was like, that's just temporary. He's just, doing his thing, but he's really my man.
Yeah.
Till I'm 18. He's keeping it on the DL till I'm 18.
He's waiting until I turn 18. So, but he's waiting till you turn 18, but he's still dating other girls. That doesn't make any sense, babe. Like, come on. So anyway, Simone goes to the hospital because she says, well, I'm going to go find out if Whitney has feelings for Chad. So she goes to the hospital, and she sees Whitney and Chad kissing, because Whitney and Chad have like decided to be together. They're, having a warm embrace, and she sees them kissing. Chad then goes, he's like, I'm going to go get us some coffees. And then Simone, instead of interrupting while they were kissing, this again points to her being delusional, but also knowing that he is not her boyfriend. Because if she truly felt like he was her boyfriend, she would have interrupted their kissing. But she did not do that. She waited till Chad walked away and then came up and confronted Whitney saying, Whitney, you bitch. And then she slaps her. Damn you, Whitney. She slaps Whitney, berates Whitney for saying you're throwing yourself at my man of all the people in Harmony. You're throwing yourself at the one man that your sister wants. Then Whitney tries to tell her like, oh, you just misunderstood. Girl, what is there to misunderstand? This pissed me off.
Yeah.
What is there to misunderstand? Your tongue was down his throat. There's nothing to misunderstand. He was just comforting me with his tongue.
With their tonsils.
Like
using Theresa's terrible situation to cover this up. Yeah.
And it's not very good cover. But again, Simone is so delusional. She accepts it basically. She slaps Whitney. Whitney tells her, oh, you just misunderstood. I'm just so upset because Theresa could die. I didn't love this. I just didn't love it. I don't like this. I don't like the fact that she's like invoking Theresa's name to like cover her own ass, to lie to her sister, and to keep Chad just kind of like hanging on, right? Like to, you know, Chad is now in a really bad position. Now, frankly, Chad should be the one to tell Simone.
He is.
Yes.
He should have told her because long time ago.
Simone's not even going to believe her sister anyway, because she's going to still want confirmation from Chad. So yeah, you need to hear from Chad. You need to hear from
got
him.
himself into this, right? Chad, this is Chad's fault at the end of the day. Not like malice, you know, full of like malice, but like he did.
He was
this.
too passive with Whitney's requests, ridiculous requests. Yeah,
he should undo it.
At the end of the day, I think I do agree that it is Chad's fault to an extent.
Responsibility.
To an extent, responsibility. That's what it is. It's his responsibility. The situation that I think all three of them are kind of at fault, right? Like all three of them have fault in it, but it is his responsibility to set Simone straight. I agree.
Yeah. Because he was just doing it for Whitney.
Yeah.
No, I was saying like the only even reason why it hasn't been told is because he's listening to Whitney, because he's been dying to tell her forever. But then she got into the accident, and then, you know, she's like pushed him away, and she's the one that's been saying, don't tell Simone. He's been wanting to do it
over and over and over again. Whitney says, don't tell Simone, don't tell Simone. Simone can't handle it. Simone can't take it. She over and over and over again. So yeah. But it is still his responsibility. He's a grown man, and he's a grown man,
and he's got the best. Yeah, and he knows what's best. He's got the strongest moral code of anyone on the show, and he always chooses to do the right thing.
And frankly, he should have set this child straight a long time ago.
Right. Like with or without Whitney, has nothing to do with Whitney. Like, this child is in love with you. You're not interested in her. Like, you should. No matter what, whether or not there's a sister.
Exactly. No matter what, you have to be like, hey, we're not going to be together. We're not going to be together. So, anyway.
Yeah, but she does think she deserves him, because she's always been saying, like, I'm the only one that ever believed Chad from the very beginning. So, like, when she found out that it wasn't him. Yeah, it's like when she found out it wasn't him that drugged her, even though she never believed it, she was like, see, I told you I was right. He didn't do it. And I've always believed him from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that's why I want you to stay away from it. Did you notice the way, and it felt sinister almost, the way Simone touched Whitney's face when she was telling him to walk on the other side of the street? Like, it was so like,
that was something.
Sinister.
So Whitney tells her, you misunderstood. Chad was just trying to comfort me because, you know, Theresa might die. And Simone seems to believe this nonsense. This is so stupid. And then she says, but you know what? If you need comforting from now on, you should go to mom and dad, not my boyfriend. And then she says, you know, I'm trying to build a relationship with Chad, and you're getting in the way. And she says, I'm not like you, Whitney. Everything I touch doesn't turn to gold. And that's when Whitney kind of thinks back to her conversation with Eve, with her mother. And then she apologizes, saying, I'm sorry I've upset you like this. And then Simone says, well, if you want to be my sister, you'll stay away from Chad. If you even see him coming, you'll cross to the other side of the street. Puts her hand on her cheek. Got it? Sinister is the exact right word. Yeah. And so
but it was the most compelling Simone has been so far.
Yeah, it was like capiche, right? Like, right? You got it. Don't encroach on my turf, kind of thing. It was very...
walk on the other side of the street from Chad.
You come to
always
me
more
on this, the day of my daughter's wedding. It was
on this, the day of my daughter's wedding. I can't believe you just said that. It's my favorite quote.
It was very that. Like, she was giving gangster.
And I love it when the actors in the show, when this hysterical screaming, I know that you love when like those Looney Loops, but like I love it when the people who are usually at like an 11 suddenly go down to a 3, and because it's so intense and like, oh, this. You know, I think that's also why I love Ivy so much, is because she's usually down here at a 3, and then like once in a while she'll go nuts, and then I'm like, oh my God, look at Ivy, she's going crazy.
Oh, Ivy is great. Because Ivy gives levels. Ivy's gonna give levels. Teresa's like pretty much almost always at like a 10 or an 11, like a lot, right? And when you do see her bring it down, it is nice. But but Ivy, you can count on her for some really good levels. And when she does go wild, it is like woof. It's like this force on you. Yeah, So it was nice to see, because Simone,
you feel the catharsis.
Simone is similar, where there are these extremes when it comes to like Chad and Whitney, and she's like, oh wait, is Chad with Whitney? Well, tell me the truth, is Whitney with Chad? Has Whitney betrayed me? And now it's like, you'll cross to the other side of the street. Got it? That's my man, not yours. Oh yeah, it was good. And she does that, and Simone, she leaves instead of waiting for Chad to come back.
Her boyfriend.
Just an interesting,
she knows.
Just an interesting thing, because she knows. She's so delusional. She knows that Chad does not want to be with her. She knows that the way for her to keep Chad and Whitney apart is to guilt Whitney. She knows that as long as she keeps Whitney under control, then she can...
At least Whitney doesn't have him. If I can't have him, at least she can't have him either.
And she can kind of remain in this delusion, right? That they're not together. And as long as she doesn't have to confront Chad, because the moment she has to confront Chad, there's a good chance Chad's going to tell her the truth that she already knows, but doesn't want to hear, right? She knows Whitney is going to try and tiptoe around her feelings, right? And try and protect her little sister. So... And that's exactly what she does. So Chad comes back after Simone leaves, and Whitney explains to Chad about Simone. I wrote in my notes, give up on this stupid girl. I'm sick of it. Chad is better than this. He needs to move on. You can love more than one person. Look at Ethan. Look at Sam. You can love more than one person. Go find somebody else to love. Because this girl she's just not... I don't want to say she's not worth it, but I hate to see him going through so much. And as Lisa S. said just a moment ago, how Chad is such a good guy. He has such a strong moral compass, and he's just like the best of the citizens of Harmony, and yet he gets treated the worst. And I hate that. And he just deserves to find love and have somebody who loves him, and it will love him openly and out loud. Versus what Whitney's willing to give him, which is crumbs.
Well, she gave him the crumb, and that was enough for him, wasn't it? When she admitted that she loves him, he was like, "Oh, take that for now."
Now that I think about it, though, Chad is a child who was abandoned.
Yes,
of course he would be happy for a couple of crumbs. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually like It's actually sadder than I thought.
Because his carers abused him, didn't they? Oh,
yeah, and they abused him, and then they abandoned him. They just left him one day. He came home and nobody was there. And then he was just like in foster care and in and out of the system for his whole life growing up. And when we meet Chad, he has just aged out of the system. So
the crumb feels like a cake to Chad, I guess.
Yeah, and that was
touching.
Now that I think about it, I'm so sad because she does. So he gets upset when she tells him like we can't really be together because of Simone. He tells her, look, I'm never going to hook up with your sister. Even if you break up with me, I'm never going to be with her. I don't love her. Whitney says to him very pointedly, I know you don't love her. I love her. And I don't want to be responsible for seeing her hurt. But again, like to Lisa A's point, people get hurt. People have heartbreaks. You can't protect them from that. Especially when you're young. And Chad says this much. He says, everybody gets hurt sometimes, Whitney. But Whitney starts to spiral with all the things that she's dealing with, which understandably so. This is a young girl who's dealing with her best friend is on the run, will likely die from giving childbirth. If not, then getting shot by the police. And if not, by lethal injection. Like her best friend is basically like already a dead woman walking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now she's dealing with this whole situation with her sister and this guy that she loves, her first love that she's ever felt in her life. So she's like, it's all too much. And she's like, I have to deal with like losing the man that I love. And that makes Chad so happy. Like she's upset.
God, this was so sweet.
He was like, did you just say you love me? And she's like, yeah. I do. I love you, Chad. So they're like back together again.
Yeah. And mind you, it's this weird triangle with the two sisters and Chad, while all the while this looming storyline that they could possibly be siblings.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Brought that up again in a while.
Yeah. Like,
the incest thing is kind of hanging over their heads. I think
this is where the writers were like, we need to figure out how we're going to get them to not be siblings because the actors, they all have good chemistry together. So, yeah.
So he tells her, now that she's told him that she loves him, that he's willing to wait for her until she can clear things up with Simone. He'll wait for as long as it takes.
He's the happiest man in the cosmos.
He was so happy. He was so happy that she told him that she loved him. But you know how many people have told Chad they love him in his life? Now that I think about it, right? How many people have told him they love him? That's what I was about to say. She might be the first.
Yeah.
God.
And her parents don't hate him anymore. Like he's in a great place right now mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like this whole Simone
He is in a good place mentally. He gives Simone more credit than anyone in her family. He says at one point, Simone is stronger than you think. So Whitney thinks she can't take it. The mum thinks she can't take it. And Chad is the one to, again, bring the common sense to this situation.
Yeah.
And all Eve has to do is give her a sedative. She gets out of control.
Yeah, she has to give her a sedative.
You want a sedative or something to quiet your nerves?
Exactly.
And their daughter will be fine. Just shoot her up with a little something.
Exactly.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She'll wake up refreshed. She'll move on.
Or hypnotize her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And make us forget that Chad ever exists. You have so many options here.
So many.
That's so good. All right. Well, y'all have anything to add to Chad and Whitney before we go to Bermuda?
I will say that I know that you don't like her invoking Theresa's name, and I don't like it either, just because it's a gross excuse for someone, like tonguing someone else. But I feel like the struggle and the burden that Theresa has been on Whitney through in her entire life, dealing with her shenanigans all the time, I feel like I can't begrudge her, like getting, you know what, this crazy bitch is going to get me out of this one time. Like using her as an excuse. She, like, this is Theresa pulling her weight. It'd be like, anytime I get caught doing anything, it could be like, Theresa,
Theresa.
And then everyone in the town would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I was
I'll give you that one for sure. I'll give you that one for
Apparently, the best thing about having twins is that you've got an excuse not to do anything. You know, like, I can't come to that. Twins. Sorry, I'm late. Twins. Whitney has the Theresa card to play.
Yeah,
She played it. We can't begrudge her.
Oh.
Yeah, and she does want to keep Simone stable because imagine being Winnie and having to manage both Theresa and now her sister.
Yeah.
That's a
Can't take
lot for poor Whitney to deal with.
She's swamped.
Again, I will say they really just created this narrative that Simone is as unstable as Theresa. It came out of absolutely nowhere. I hated it last week when Eve had that whole conversation with her. I hated. They were talking mad shit about Simone. Well, specifically Eve was talking mad shit about Simone to Whitney. And one of my pet peeves is when parents talk shit about one of their children to their other child. I fucking hate that shit. I hate it because it messes with your brain chemistry. It messes with your brain
wouldn't do that about Sugar Bear. Okay, he wouldn't do that to Sugar Bear.
TC doesn't know Sugar Bear's real name. That's why he wouldn't do it.
Oh, is that why she gets the affectionate nickname? Because he sees himself in her. So she gets the Sugar Bear because he has an affinity with her because they're both full of rage.
I guess. I don't know. The whole Simone has a temper and she's unstable. She wears her heart on her sleeve. What did Eve say last week? Eve said that a heartbreak could cause her severe mental damage. That's how you think of your kid. If you
has Eve diagnosed her with something? Yeah.
If you think your kid is that unwell and you are a doctor, why wouldn't you go get her some help?
Yeah.
Get her some help. If you think she's so unstable that a breakup of her with her first boyfriend as a child is going to send her into such a destructive tailspin that it will do permanent damage to her, get your baby some help. My God, you're a doctor.
A boyfriend that's not even a boyfriend.
Well,
like it's not even her boyfriend. And Kay's a horrible para to have. Because she's not going to help her at all. I don't know. Maybe you might need to, at this point, explain paras. It's an educational thing.
Simone was Kay's para. So they can't each other's para.
Well, that just shows how this has come from nowhere. Because Simone was always the one being the voice of wisdom to Kay. She was always the sensible one. But not anymore, apparently.
No longer. Love makes you crazy. Girls just can't think straight when there's a cute boy involved.
Oh my God, that is passion's like trope.
So sexist. Why do we watch it?
What'd you say, Lisa?
Because Lena Cardwell. It was the recasting. As soon as you have a new actor, you have a different dynamic, right? Like Ethan's character changes when we get new. Like
Gwen,
certainly Chad will not be the same Chad this whole time. So I feel like Lena Cardwell has such a sweet doll-like face, and and Christy Farris just sort of like plays crazy.
She plays her crazy,
and like no one called her crazy, but like she's always been like a Theresa. Like even like remember that the one time she was walking and then she saw them kissing in the window and she was like and like she was screaming into like she was always
ran out into traffic. I mean
so like
that's true.
So like this like she's a little like intense is not new, but now they're talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
Now
and speaking of actors, how fun was it last week seeing Eric make an appearance before being Ethan?
Oh, yeah. No, when you said Eric, I thought Eric Vera. I was like,
no. I was like, Dr. Eric
No.
Vera?
Wasn't trying to invoke Dr. Eric Vera.
That was fun when I was like, oh my God, that's our Ethan. He's coming soon.
Yeah.
I missed that
guy right here.
Yeah. What happened? I did not catch that.
He was a police officer. He played a police
zombie
officer,
charity.
But zombie charity was it was actually zombie
that was
charity.
Him.
Yeah. And he did a great job. He did a great job doing like the lip sync with the zombie charity. So
yeah.
All right, y'all. It's time to go to Bermuda. And truthfully, usually I hate this, but it was fun. It was a lot this week, and so we got a lot to talk about. So here we go. Although this needs different music because this was
no.
very dramatic. So
You need the dramatic music.
Let's see.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more that.
Yeah. From all sides.
It was more that this week. All right, so we're back on St. Lisa's Island, which we got our two Lisas for us being back on St. Lisa's Island. Later on, there's a point where Sheridan / Diana makes a quip about this island no one's ever even heard of, this raggedy island no one's ever even heard of, and I was like, ooh, that's mean. Okay, so anyway. Liz, let's talk about what's going on with Liz and Brian. We pick up because at the end of last week, Liz was saying to Brian, no, you can't do that. Brian's trying to figure out a way to make the money to pay off Diana's debt to Nick from her illegal gambling that she did. And we left off and we didn't know what it was. And we pick up and we still don't know what it is. It's just Liz and Brian going back and forth. And Liz is like, you can't do that. You can't go back to that thing. And Brian's like, I have to. This is the only way. And Diana's sitting there like, what? What is it? Back like me. I was like, what is it? And then
I thought it was a gigolo.
Then, yeah, exactly. I'm like, is he going to be slinging dick? Like, what is it?
Oh my God.
Liz finally says, Brian quit racing because he almost died in a crash. So we find out this thing that he wants to go back to doing to make money is racing cars. And so she then says that's why he came to this island in the first place, because Doc had an unorthodox rehab program, but it got Brian walking again. Like when he came here, he couldn't even walk. He could barely do anything for himself, right? So we get a flashback, y'all. Baby, when I tell you, this had me fire hot for Gwen. Not Gwen, Lord Jesus. Ooh, where did that come from?
Yeah, babe. Yeah. All right.
No, this had me
how you really feel. Yeah, that's subconscious, baby. That's subconscious.
No, wrong. I just have a cold. And that's all it is. My brain is fuzzy. We get this flashback and it had me fire hot for Liz. I got real fired up because we see this flashback and it's Liz helping Brian rehab his entire body. We never see Doc. So in my mind, it was actually Liz who rehabbed him. Is right.
Yep. I have in my notes that Liz was already a better doctor than her sister Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point.
And like she says to him, do you really want to go through all of that again? What if this time you die? And he very flippantly says to her, oh, it wasn't that bad. And Liz says, it was pure hell. And she says, Brian, you had a broken back. You broke both of your legs and most of your ribs. And she says, please do not race again, Brian. Please. She's begging him. And that's extensive. Those are extensive injuries. A broken back alone is like horrifying.
God, yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah. Horrifying. But think about it.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Lisa.
I'm just saying, so this man, right, first of all, is shirtless in every scene, right? Has no shirt on he never had his entire, so this unorthodox therapy is basically like rest and physical therapy, right? And like occasional painkillers. This is like a crazy therapy is just like rest and some PT.
Listen, the physical therapy montage was hilarious to me because most of it was just that big exercise ball. Like most of it was him like rolling across the floor,
right, humping the exercise ball.
Yeah.
But like if someone breaks their back and ribs, like you're going to be sedentary for so long, you're going to lose that muscle mass. Your muscles are going to atrophy a little bit. But this whole time he's like
buff,
this big hulking shirtless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was very buff.
Poor Liz.
Poor Liz. So he flippantly says, oh, it wasn't all that bad. And then we get more flashbacks of Liz and Brian and how they got closer and they're having dinner together. And at one point at this dinner, she asks him very passionately to promise her that he'll never race cars again. And he reluctantly agrees. And then they kiss. And I wrote in my notes, oh, fuck Brian, in all caps. Because this woman gave you your fucking life back.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. This lady gave you your life back, and all you have done since then is use her. I hate this man. I hate, double hate, triple hate, loathe.
We hated him for him using her before even knowing this.
Exactly. Before I even knew about this, I was like, ugh, he sucks. He's taking advantage of Liz. This part, I'm sorry. If you want to fuck another bitch, you have to leave this lady's hotel. You have to go to a new island. That's fucked up. It's just indecent. Truthfully, it's just you can't live here. You can't live. I'm sorry. We had a whole life.
Especially that she still loves him too.
Yeah, and he
knows this.
He clearly knows that. I cannot stand this piece of shit. So
he doesn't just know it; he takes advantage of it on a daily basis. Yeah,
my next note was Liz has done more for Brian than I had originally thought. He really is a complete piece of shit, just straight garbage. Liz has done so much for him. That was crazy. This is crazy. So anyway, Brian tells Liz that was a long time ago when she says, you promised me that you wouldn't do this again. He goes, that was a long time ago. A promise is a promise, dummy. Do you know how promises work? That's why
that was what disgusted me. Yeah.
It's supposed to be forever, dummy. He goes, things change. He says, I have no choice. I have to do this. You have plenty of choices. You could leave the island with Diana, get a real job somewhere else. You could go back to Harmony. You have plenty of choices.
You're planning to go back to Harmony anyway to see Mama, so just go now. Yeah.
Yeah, and Julian's dead. If Julian is dead and Julian was the reason you couldn't go back to Harmony, you absolutely can go back to, come on now. Come on, man. So, anyway.
Liz can fly them immediately.
Liz can fly them right over, drop them off, give them parachutes and drop them out the back.
Discreetly.
I insist it's discreet. I insist you be discreet in your giant aircraft. So Diana pipes up, and she is also against all the racing as well. She says, this is my responsibility anyway, Brian. And then Brian gives her this whole speech in front of Liz about how from the moment he pulled her out of the water, he knew she was the woman that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. He says, I will protect you at any cost. And he just ignores both of their pleas and goes and makes some phone calls. So yeah, Diana is against all the racing as well. And she's like, it's my responsibility anyway, Brian. And then he gives her this whole speech in front of Liz about how from the moment he pulled her out of the water, he knew she was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. I'll protect you at any cost. He just ignores both of these women and goes to make some phone calls to get the ball rolling to become a race car driver again. This man just wanted to race cars again. And this was a convenient excuse.
Right.
That became very clear to me. He didn't give a fuck about what Diana wanted. He didn't give a fuck about what Liz wanted. He had been wanting to get back into racing, and he found a convenient excuse to do it. So, and to break his promise to Liz, because he never really cared about Liz that much anyway.
Nope.
Just using her. Just using her. So, Diana says, after Brian walks off, Diana's like, this is all my fault. Now, normally in a situation like this, the other people around the person, especially a character like Diana, are like, oh no, like they handle her with white gloves and handle her with care. Liz, girl, I was like, come on, Liz. So Diana goes, this is all my fault. And Liz says, you're right, Diana. This is all your fault.
Yep. Yep, she laid it in.
If Brian hadn't saved you from drowning, none of this would be happening. I wish you had just died at sea. Oh my God. She says, I wish Brian, I mean, she doubles down. I wish Brian had never fished you out of the sea. I wish he never brought you to this island. I wish he had just let you die. It was mean, but I kind of get it.
But I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was just going to say, yeah, it is your fault. You shouldn't have gone into that shady room with those shady men playing shady games with money you don't have. I thought that's where she was going to go for it, but she's like, it is your fault. You know, you were born or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you exist.
So it's your fault.
You exist.
Yeah.
It's your fault. Yeah.
She
And
did
you came to my
apologize
hotel.
later.
She apologizes almost immediately. But I did think it was very mean. I thought it was really like misplaced. It was definitely misplaced anger. She's angry with Brian. Yes, she doesn't like the fact that Diana is like Brian's love now, right? But I don't think she hates Diana. She's just jealous. She's jealous of Diana.
It'd been building up
jealous.
for a long time. Yeah.
These bitches have been living off of her goodwill.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
Not paying her for things that she's paid for. She's walking around wearing her clothes, fucking her man. Like,
Yep. And not coming to work. Like, like, where are you people? You have a job.
Getting herself into these like damsel in distress situations that compel this man who obviously needs to be a hero to continue to save. Like, I'm kind of, I get it.
I get it.
Team Liz.
I get it. I get it. It was, like I said, the anger is misplaced on Diana because, like, okay, there's a certain line that was crossed when she was like, I wish you had just died a gory death at sea. I mean, sure, Diana's annoying, but I don't think she deserved to die a horrible death. But still, I'm with Liz. I get it. I understand her frustration and where she's coming from. Diana is shocked by this. She's like, Liz, I thought we were friends. And Liz apologizes immediately. She's like, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I was just upset about Brian. And then Diana says, well, I never wanted to hurt Brian. And then Liz says, well, oh, no. Sorry. Diana says, I never wanted to hurt Brian. I don't know how I keep getting myself into these messes. Like, she's insufferable, right? Like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, get her, Liz. Get her.
Yeah.
Liz says, well, you've got to get yourself out of this mess with Nick or Brian could die. I know you didn't mean any of this to happen, but these things keep happening. You keep messing things up for me and Brian. This kind of clues Diana in to the fact that Liz still has feelings for Brian, which I feel like she should have figured that out by now. It's weird to me that she hasn't figured that out, but she also couldn't walk and carry a tray at the same time. So
that's also true. She has the mind of like a 7-year-old.
If that, I wouldn't even say a 7. Her brain.
She's like Mr. F on Arrested Development. Do you guys know, like, Arrested Development? Mr. F?
Yes.
Mr. F.
Aw.
I know. It's like not a PC joke anymore, but like that really is what she's like, especially in this phase of the show.
She even
to be fair, she does have amnesia, and this is so weird because me and Lotara, I think last time was talking about how rare amnesia is in real life, and I won't go into details, but someone close to me shortly after that developed amnesia, and there is a childlike quality to your memories have gone. There is very exciting, so maybe they did some research.
Okay,
not sure, but
all right,
trying to stick up for those writers.
Lisa actually knows somebody who got amnesia. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
New expert.
We should just talk about Lisa's life and not passion. What are you doing?
Right?
These assholes.
Should I write a book?
Yeah.
Maybe.
We should just call the podcast Saint Lisa. And then like
spin off. Once we're done with this, spin off.
We're doing the Saint Lisa's podcast. Okay.
God.
Well, okay. You know what? I'm gonna give it to her then. Because Lisa says there's a childlike quality.
Is she still dealing with it, your friend?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Crazy. That's crazy. So, Well,
Maybe
all
they
right.
need to get the doctor that rehabilitated Brian to help rehabilitate Diana's brain.
I mean, Doc is around.
The
Yeah.
unorthodox methods
He's
Yeah.
around.
of
So
regular exercise.
Liz tells Diana, I'm sick of watching you depend on Brian to save you. You even roped me into helping you, and I don't know why I do. He's like, yeah, girl, why do you do? Stand up, Liz. Stand up.
Yeah.
And don't stand up to Diana. She can't do shit. Stand up to Brian.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she says, Diana, it's time for you to take responsibility for yourself. And then she says, I promise I'm not going to let you hurt Brian again. I mean, how has Brian really been hurt?
No.
No, Brian hasn't been hurt. He hasn't.
Well, I think she's talking about the car accident. I'm not going to let you get him hurt again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I won't let you be the reason he gets hurt again.
All right. I'll buy that. So this is when, like I said, Diana realizes that Liz is still in love with Brian. She tries to get, Diana tries to get Liz to admit that she's still in love with Brian, but she doesn't. She won't say it. And then Diana says, well, I'm going to go and fix things. I have to take care of this myself. And she leaves.
Chance, no way. I won't say I'm in love.
I won't say I'm in love. That's my shit.
Cliche.
I won't say I'm in love. You're doing flips, read our lips. You're in love. Yeah, she won't say it though. She won't say she's in love.
In heaven too. All right.
Listen, that song, I love that song.
That soundtrack. The whole
thing is so good. But that song in particular, first of all, I sang it at a 5th grade talent show. And I sang it. Well, I was supposed to. Okay, we're off on a tangent, but I was supposed to sing with my 2 best friends. We were like in a girl group. And when it was like so close for us to go on stage, time for us to go on stage to do like a thing, we weren't even going to do that song. I had suggested we do that song, but my friend Erica Bush, she was like, no, we have to do one of our original songs. That was a terrible idea. We didn't even know our own original songs. Anyway, my friend Colby was like, I'm not doing this. Like it was time for us to go on stage and she was like, I'm not doing this. So she like decided not to do it. And Erica, because Colby didn't want to do it, Erica was like, well, I'm not doing it. And I was like, well, I'm going to go fucking sing. And so I got on stage and I sang I Won't Say I'm in Love a cappella. I did win. So
where was this tape?
There is no tape. It was 1998.
That was tape.
Yeah. But that
someone
happened.
has it. Someone was recording with one of those.
That would be honestly, if somebody had that tape, if that existed somewhere, and I saw that, like I would be in tears. I'm sure.
Does your high school class have like a Facebook group? Maybe you could post to be like, does anyone have our?
Well, I was in elementary school. Like I was in the 5th grade.
Right, so. But like, didn't people go with you to that high school? Like, oh,
no, I went from elementary school and then I went to a performing arts school for 6th through 12th grade. So all of those people I stayed with 6th through 12th grade, but not elementary school.
You got to fish out that yearbook.
Colby went to school with me when we went to middle school, but not like she was like the only one. Anyway,
amazing. Okay,
back to Diana, who has decided.
Sorry.
Take matters into her own hands. Never apologize for bringing up the Hercules soundtrack. Never apologize. So. Anyway, meanwhile, Brian decides to go to Nick's room to tell him he's going to have his money in a few days. And he's like, you're not going to get Diana because she's mine. The conversation around Diana is very possessive on both sides. Like, she's mine. Oh, I'm going to take her. Well, she's not like a bag of cash. She's not a wallet for you to take. Yeah. But this is how these men think about her. This is how they think of her. Yeah. And her value to both of them is the exact same thing.
Right.
Is that she is beautiful. Right. She doesn't know who she is. And she's like this blank canvas. That's it. That's her value to both of these men. And that, of course, like I've been saying, Brian is no better than Nick. Like he likes to act like he is, but when it comes to Diana, he's really no better than him.
Well, he
So-
said, didn't he?
Yeah.
When I fished you out of the ocean, I knew I wanted to be with you forever. So he'd seen her. He hadn't heard her talk. He doesn't know
No.
her personality. It's purely because she looks
It was
nice.
the hair. Remember, he falls in love
That
with hair,
golden
like him
hair.
and his brother, the golden hair.
Yeah.
The girl with golden hair. That's what it is.
Yep, it was the hair. And
So-
when he was talking to Liz about justifying it, he actually brought up the Titanic story as justification of why they belong together. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You're bringing up the Titanic past life?
But she was the only logical one. He's like, I saw pictures of us. And she's like, yeah, but couldn't that just be people who look like you?
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
no, it was us. And she's like, all right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He when it's convenient for him, it's real and it's true. But so Nick tells him, no, Diana, I'm gonna get her. There's something about her that just radiates money, and I need to find out what it is. I need to find out who she is. Then Brian just leaves him saying, I'm gonna get you your money, and then you're gonna get the fuck off this island. And so Diana then shows up and goes to Nick herself and asks, is there any other way that I can pay you besides cash? Like the dialogue, like what the words she had to say were so suggestive.
But she's not a prostitute.
No, she's not. She says that. She's like, I'm no prostitute. I'm not going to just sleep with you for money. Anyway, Nick invites her in. She's like, is there any way that I can pay off my debt so that Brian doesn't have to risk his life? Nick's like, why don't you come in? We'll have a conversation about it. Pours her some champagne. They toast to the beginning of a beautiful new relationship very quickly for some reason. I don't know why she's taking a drink from this nefarious man. You know what? She has amnesia. I guess she just doesn't know that you shouldn't
Childlike
take drinks with
innocence.
strange men.
Can I come in on that toast as well? Because they made an error here. So he said she's having the champagne with Nick, and he says, I can tell by the way you hold your glass you've drunk vintage champagne before. They were both holding the glass wrong. Because we all know if you want to keep your champagne cold, you need to hold it by the stem.
Yep.
An error.
An error. Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. But of course, it's passions.
It's passion.
I can tell you radiate money and class, and she's like holding her champagne flute like this, both hands in the claws, like go, wiping her.
Or remember,
face with the back of her
like,
hand.
remember the oh my god, how do you know that move? And it was just a dip.
Just
Yeah,
the secret move.
So
The
silly.
secret move.
So yes, she finally asks him, well, what can I do in exchange for you canceling the debt? And he said, what do you want in exchange? And he says, you. Girl, of course that's what he wants. Again, whatever, she don't know anything. She's like, I'm not a prostitute. I'm not going to sleep with you just for money. And he's like, no, I know that. You're a woman of refinement. And he's like, I just want to give you a better life. And you deserve so much more than what Brian can give you. And I can give you so much more. And then she looks out the window like longingly. And she's like, well, maybe it would be better if I just let Brian move on from me, because I've brought him nothing but heartache and pain. What is she talking about?
Don't know.
When did she bring him heartache and pain?
He says how happy he is all the time. What?
Constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's only heartbroken whenever she talks about her dead lover.
Yeah, you
And she
leaving
stopped
him,
doing that. So
It's so weird. It's
Yeah,
so weird.
you
Also-
leaving him is going to cause heartache and pain.
I feel like I don't want to condone sleeping with people for maybe we edit this out but like I feel like if the man you love, if his life is on the line, right? And your options are be the property of this man for the rest of your life and be his basic like sex slave as he traffics you around the world, or bang him once and get your money's worth and then get out of there and go be with your man. I feel like at least it's worth entertaining for a moment. Just be, I'm not a prostitute. Like inside, she'd be like, I'm not a prostitute, but like given these two options,
Yeah.
I mean, have we
Like,
seen the
don't be
movie
so-
Indecent Proposal?
Exactly. That's
That
exactly
was
what I was
great.
thinking.
right?
As
Like
in
don't
that
feel
scene.
so surprised. Like you came up here being all sexy and being like, is there anything? I could do. Like, just do it. It will take 12 minutes. Go back.
I guess there was that element though, that Nick has seen her before, and if he takes her with her, he can play. True. So there was that tiny draw to Nick. Not really, though.
Yeah. She thinks he knows who she can help her figure out who she is. According to him, he's seen her somewhere before, living the good life, and he can figure it out if she just gives him a chance. And then she asks how he knows her, and he's like, I don't know, I just picture you somewhere, I can see it in my mind's eye. And then we get flashbacks of like episode 5, and I kind of loved that. Like, we get flashbacks of her in Paris from the very early episodes. And
is
so
the implication that Nick was also in Paris watching her walk around?
Yes.
Must have been. Yeah.
Okay.
That has to be what it is.
Okay.
He was in Paris. Maybe he was part of Roger's crew. Maybe he was like he was in that world. You know what I mean?
True.
The goon world?
Yeah, the goon world. It's a small world. It's a small goon world after all.
Which would then suggest that he knows who she is.
Right. Well, he's trying to figure it out. Right. Like, he's like, I recognize this bitch.
He's saying London or Paris or somewhere exotic, somewhere expensive.
Oh my God. That drove me crazy. He was like, yeah, it was like London, Paris, somewhere exotic. Are London and Paris exotic?
Not last times I've been there.
Think of them as exotic. But anyway, so she agrees to go with him if he'll wipe Brian's debt clean. She's like, all right, I'll go with you.
Her debt.
Oh yeah,
her
debt. It is her debt. You're right. It is her debt, but she's like, she frames it as like saving Brian,
right?
Saving Private Brian. And, anyway, meanwhile, Brian has a conversation with Liz. Now we need to talk about this. So Liz is trying to get him not to go through with this racing plan, and he ignores her and just goes, "Where's Diana?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'm not her keeper. I'm not Diana's keeper." And Brian's like, "Liz, are you okay?" And y'all, this was so funny because he says, "Liz, are you okay?" And I yelled at the screen, "No!" And she immediately was like, "No, I'm not okay." I was like, "Yes, thank you, Liz.
Good.
Thank you, Liz. I'm so glad you're being honest and saying it out loud." It's like, "Liz, are you okay?" No, obviously I'm not okay. Like, I watched you go through this horrible experience. I fell in love with you. You know I fell in love with you. I don't want to see you go through that again. And you're ignoring me. And on top of that, you are doing it all for another woman in my face. No, I'm not okay. And
also, like, I spent all that time and effort getting you better. Like, what a fuck you to me. Like, all of my efforts that I spent, I bathed you. Like, I'm sure she didn't mind.
It looked like she did, yeah.
But like, I did all of that stuff for you, and for you to like risk it all again shows that like you didn't appreciate what I did. She should really advocate for herself a little bit more, as opposed to like making it be about him, which is what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It should really be about
send him a bill.
Yeah.
You send him a bill for the medical, for the housing, for the food, for the
clothes the dishes that Diana broke,
everything.
The gas for the plane,
the gas,
the boat, the Bermuda, all of it. Invoice.
Just
send him an invoice.
Yeah.
Actually,
send him back to the racetrack. Yeah,
Nick, add it to his bill. You know what? Also, he owes you this.
And then sue his ass. This man owes me this much. Anywhere he fucking goes, garnish his wages because he owes me, and I get paid first off the top. So anyway, he's like ignoring her, just worried about like, where's Diana? Then they go back and forth about him going back into racing. He won't listen to her, and then Liz starts talking, like venting about how Diana is a problem. She's like, and Diana's always getting herself into these damsel in distress situations where you have to risk your life to save hers. With someone who really loves you, would they keep doing that? And he gets so upset. But I kind of loved what Liz was saying there. Like, why does she keeps getting herself into these situations where you end up having to put your life on the line? Why does she keep doing that? Right? Granted, because I started kind of going back in my mind of like, what are these situations that Liz is talking about? And all I can think about are like the situations where, number one, where she was in the ocean in the first place, right? Then when she went into like that trance and went out into the ocean in the middle of the night. I think she did that like 2 times. So I feel like those must be what she's talking about. And now this portion where
she's in the ocean a lot. She fell off the boat. She's just in the ocean.
Yeah, she really is.
Oh, she dropped plates, right? She couldn't like she couldn't carry glasses.
Yeah.
Like she just kept needing help.
The waitress school that he set up for her.
Yeah. And then also, you know, like she had to be rescued from just all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So plus and now this, right? And so he gets upset saying, "Why would you say that? We're meant to be together and we've been together before." Talking about the Titanic, talking about we were on the Titanic together.
Yeah, that's when this came up. Oh my God, it was so infuriating. Like, really?
We are meant to be together. We are soulmates. Oh, why would you say that to Liz? Why would you say that to Liz?
Such a tone-deaf asshole. I wish Liz had been like, wait, Brian, we were on the Titanic together. I see it. I really wish. I wonder what he would have done if she's like, I had a vision. It was so clear we were on that and just go for it 100%. Just go Brian, so hard.
We were in Pompeii together long before Titanic.
Right. Just do it. What do you have to lose? I also see us together in the future. Like we're out over the future. We're in the stars.
The power of the triangle. I can see.
Yeah. The power of the triangle. Yeah.
Doc told me.
That's so funny.
Yep.
Oh God, that's such a good.
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
so
she
good.
could do
That's
that.
what she should have done. Just like fight crazy with crazy. Like,
Yep.
all right. I didn't want to do this. These tea leaves. Look, here we are.
Don't you see it? Don't you?
Juniper.
Oh. And then she faints.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. So he tells her Diana and I were on the Titanic. She's like, "What? What? You believe that?" He's like, "Yes, we're soulmates. It's true. I know it's crazy, but it's true." And well, Liz finally says to him, "You know, I'm not going to help you anymore if you insist on going back to race car driving. Don't look to me for help. I'm not going to do it anymore."
Good for you.
Good for her. Yes.
Good for you.
And then he
Boundaries.
asks about Diana again. And my thing was, he asked about Diana like 3 or 4 times. Like, where's Diana? Where's Diana? It's like, bitch, I already told you I don't fucking know. I already told you I don't know. Stop asking me. Go ask somebody else or go look for her. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Get up off your ass and go find her.
Right. If you're soulmates, go use your psychic connection. Leave me alone. Right.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Let it lead you to where she is.
Right.
So, he asks about Diana, and then she explains to him that she told Diana, she says, "I don't know where she is, but I told Diana that it's time for her to take care of her own problems. And if she didn't, she could be responsible for putting you behind the wheel of a car that could kill you." I wrote the line, but as I was writing it, I was like, this is a weird line. Like, she could be responsible for putting you behind the wheel of a car that could kill you. Whatever. So then he's like, "Why did you tell her that?" And she's like, "Why shouldn't I? Doesn't she deserve the truth? Or is your relationship built on keeping secrets from one another?" Ooh, Liz. And then he figures out, he's like, "Oh, she must have gone to Nick's room." Yeah. Yes.
Oh, now you finally figured it out.
Liz
You're
has
so
entered the
smart.
chat. I love this Liz.
Yes. I'm enjoying this Liz a lot, actually. And so
Liz is bitter because he's willing to go back to racing to pay off her debts, but like, where's my money?
where's my money?
You're not gonna go racing to give me back my money?
Yeah. But also, like, the thing is, she really loves Brian. And she was there while he was in the worst shape that he's ever been in. She was there wiping his ass, probably. Right? And she doesn't want to see him hurt again. She doesn't want to see him going back to that. And the fact that he's willing to because again, she saw it. Like, he was on death's door.
Right.
The fact that he's willing to go back through all of that, possibly go back to that, possibly die for Diana, really is eating her up. Right. It's really eating her up. And I get it. I get it. He couldn't have been in my hotel. I would have had to kick him out the minute he brought her back to the hotel and was like, "Oh, I love her." Oh, okay, go love her somewhere else. Go love her over on the other island. Go find
St. Judy. Right.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe she fell into that whole thing where you fall in love with your patient? She's taking care of him, and then she fell in love with him through caring for him. Like, there's a term. I forget what the term is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. To me, it doesn't really matter because it wasn't like he didn't engage with her.
He gave it back, right?
We see flashbacks of them in bed together.
Yeah.
Making out, making love.
Yeah.
He let her delayed him back to health, you know?
Yeah. If it was that she fell in love with him and he didn't return her affections in any way, I would be like, yeah, Liz is tripping. But he did.
But there was never a commitment between them. So
apparently,
is it Liz's fault not Liz's fault, but he was always open with her that he didn't want to make a commitment to her. Does she not have to look and say, actually,
was he always open with her? I haven't seen that. I heard a conversation where Diana asks Liz what happened between her and Brian. She says, well, Brian wasn't ready for he said that he wasn't ready for a full commitment. Like
so he was dangling.
We were trying to move on to the next step, and he decided that he wasn't in a place where he could fully commit, and so then we broke up.
But like Louise and Beth.
Yeah, to me it wasn't as much like, oh, they were in this like open relationship having a fling as much as it was they were getting closer and closer and closer until finally Brian was like, oh, actually this has gone a little bit further than I wanted it to go. And then he backpedaled and went back.
I have this memory of like when we first are introduced to Liz and Brian, when like there's like I don't ask him about his past, he doesn't ask me about mine. Like it's sort of like this like refuge for like people with like shady past that are escaping something, and it's sort of like we respect our bound, like we got a good thing going here, like we're all we're renegades, and we don't ask questions, but obviously she fell in love with him, and then like it probably got a little too real.
So
ridiculous.
Anyway, Brian goes to Nick's room, bursts in the room where he and Diana are like shaking hands on their like agreement, and he rushes Nick, immediately grabs him, but Nick has a gun. He grabs his gun off the table. He's like, get your hands off of me or I'll shoot you. And then Brian like pushes him and like judo kicks the gun out of his hand, and then they just like start to fist fight and really get into like this very rough like fighting stance. They're fighting each other. I don't know how else to say it. Anyway, and they're on the floor like rolling around, and Diana yells at them to stop. She's like, stop it, stop, what are you doing? And she then lays into Brian and says this was great. I was like, all right,
I loved it.
Something else.
I was like, okay. And she says, stop, I want to be with him. Oh, talking about Nick, right? And so she says, saying to Brian, you had no right to barge in here. I can make my own decisions. And then she goes on this whole speech about how Nick can offer her so much more than Brian. She has chosen him. And then she turns to Liz and says, happy Liz, I guess your instincts were right about me all along. Ooh. And so then she says she's going to be leaving with Nick. She's made her decision. And Brian like doesn't accept this. And she's like, you need to accept it. It's over. And he says, this isn't you. I know you, Diana. Which made me I was like, you don't know this lady. You don't know her. This isn't you. I know you, Diana. We've been through too much together. I guess he's talking about the Titanic, but anyway.
Yeah.
And she tells him, don't take it personally. I really liked you a lot. I even thought I could be falling in love with you, but you got to admit, we really don't know each other that well. this.
Which is so true.
And I know it's just her like doing her selfless, like, I'm giving up Brian. It's stupid, but she's like, I'm giving up Brian for his sake, and I'm doing this for him, and this is what I can do for him.
There.
And but it's true. She's like, you got to admit, we really don't know each other all that well. And he's like, that's not true. We know each other. And he's like, she says, you saw what you wanted to see in me. Yes. Oh,
yep.
They managed to write it,
true.
but for some reason they wrote it as a lie. But it's the truth.
It is the truth.
It's the truth. The writers
and for
wrote
the
it as
majority of the relationship, it was like, the majority of that relationship was him trying to tell her, forget about your dead lover.
Yeah, projecting onto her what he wanted her to be, right? And so she says that, and she says, but you know what? This is the real me. Brian's still not buying it. And then she says, what woman in her right mind would choose to wait tables at some broken down hotel on some pathetic little island no one's ever even heard of? And then she says, and why would they stay with some guy who can't even afford to fix his own boat? I'm sorry. I loved this This was a read. When I say this was a read, it was a full, oh my God, it was such a good read. And she delivered it so well.
Mackenzie Westmore was probably like, finally.
Yeah.
I can play someone with a little teeth. Probably the way like Molly Stanton was like, oh, I get to be bitchy? Oh, yeah. Like, you know, like she was finally like, oh, I get to play the character I was hired to play 3 years ago. She's like, I'm not like, so she probably was so excited that even for a moment, she got to play this like feisty, you don't tell me what the fuck to do.
Yeah. Something other than simpering. Something other than simpering. Because that's what she's been doing for months at this point. It's crazy. So he says to her, well, that's not what you were saying a few hours ago. That's not what you were saying when my dick was in your mouth. Oh my God. Sorry, y'all. Sorry.
No, that was great.
No, that was good.
You were saying.
And then she says, well, that's because I needed you. I'm not stupid enough to bite the hand that feeds me.
So that's Liz's hand. It's Liz that's feeding you.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
And so Brian still does not believe it, but Diana finally says it's over. I want to be with Nick. And then Brian and Liz leave, and immediately Diana breaks down crying, saying, oh, I love him. Girl, no, you do not. Stop it. Stop this. Shut up.
You settled for him.
You don't love him. And she says, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. And Nick is like, well, that's all right. You got me now, baby. and you know, he'll be fine. He'll be fine without you, basically. So that's like the end of my notes. Y'all have anything to add?
Yeah.
To
I do have a note saying, well, Nick is a lot cuter than both Louise and Brian. She should leave with him.
You think?
You think he's cuter than Louise?
Yeah.
No.
What?
Yeah.
You know what?
100%.
You know
Louise
what?
never was like a heartthrobbie for me.
You know what though, Maria? I'm gonna say this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I only met your husband like the one time at your birthday party. But Nick does kind of look like your husband.
Oh, well, maybe that
I feel
explains
like
it.
Now that I'm looking at him, like, yeah, Nick does kind of look like your husband to me. Like now that when you said that, I was like, huh, that must be Maria's type. Yeah. No, Louise never did. Like for me, it's like too much hair. And the thick eyebrows, like that just was never. I think it's because it's like a family trait in my family. So you know how you're like repulsed by your own family traits? Yeah. Yeah, to me, Louis, that's a man right there, Louis.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Even when I was like too young to be out, and like I was drool.
Yeah, that's a man.
Yeah.
That is a man. All right, so we're ready to move on to magic. We don't have a whole lot with magic, but we get some big reveals. Oh,
God, yes.
Time to go. All right. Remember, Timmy is at this Greasy Spoon where he works, and he's trying to prove that Peggy is Norma in disguise. So he has set out a pitcher of Martinis to ensnare her in a trap so that she will drink the Martinis, fall asleep. He can take off her mask and then take pictures of her when she falls asleep. This plan works. That is what happens. That is exactly what happens.
Yeah, I love that she's like, martinis taste like candy.
Yeah, like what's in them? I really want to know the recipe.
Me too. I'm like, what is this delicious, delectable drink? Because listen, one thing about me is I love a beverage. I love juices, drinks, a good cocktail. I love a beverage, especially if somebody's like drinking it, like, oh my God, this is so good. Please give it to me. Like, I will drink a gallon of juice in 3 days. I will. It'll be gone.
I make a sparkling martini, which is absolutely not like a martini at all, but I just made one that I thought would be delicious, and I have enjoyed. So maybe one day I'll make you my sparkling martini.
You have to.
Yes,
you have to.
Does it taste like candy?
Not unlike candy.
Oh, maybe you intuitively.
There's a little like sparkling cider in it, and a little like a splash of framboise to give it like the
oh my
texture.
God, I bet that's so good. Actually,
really good. It's delicious. I'm very happy with it.
Listen, I love me some juice, and it's sparkling juice, no less. I love.
I showed you a picture of what I was drinking last night. It was like a sparkling pomegranate martini.
It looked good. It was pink.
It was delicious.
I love a nice, like, fruity, juicy drink.
That's me.
So Timmy, his plan basically works. Peggy drinks the martinis, gulps them down. We spend like a long time,
so much time
watching Peggy drink the martinis.
So much time. But what's her character name? I don't know what the actor's name is. The one who plays Norma and / Peggy. Like, I don't love this version. I don't love the murderous version of, like, later on. She just becomes one of my favorite actors on the show, because you can tell she really commits. She's a theater actor, so she's like real broad with everything. And I like giving her screen time where she's not trying to murder somebody.
Yeah, where she's not like with a giant.
Right. When she actually gets to play like nuanced and like react to something because she knows the camera's up close. Like, what a delight to watch.
When she's not just playing psycho.
Right.
Well, right now she's falling asleep. So she passes out in the kitchen. Timmy gets over to her, tries to peel the mask off, has trouble doing it. I just wrote mask shenanigans in my note because eventually he does get the mask off of Norma. Or off of Peggy.
It took tools. And like,
those were the mask shenanigans. He had like a jackhammer and like a power drill and like all of this stuff, but he finally got it off.
Yeah.
And the
his
reveal
little
is,
hands. Oh my God. Josh's little hands on his face.
He's so little.
You forget how little he is until you're like,
and like, she's a bigger woman, so like her largeness and his littleness, and like he's skinny, like he's
it's an interesting little visual of the two of them, for sure.
Precious.
He gets the mask off, and the reveal is that it's not Norma, it's Julian. It's
this
Julian.
whole time.
He's alive.
This whole time.
So Toto starts to lick Julian's face, and Julian, of course, thinks it's some kind of woman licking his face. And like, oh, darling, right? He's not even doing his like,
Rebecca
voice anymore.
Yeah,
could have been Rebecca licking all over him.
Yeah, he didn't. I was like, my thought was, if he were to say Rebecca or something like that, I would have been like, oh, that's actually so sweet, right? Like, I don't know. He's thinking about Rebecca, but he didn't say Rebecca, so I was like, he's just, he's
could be anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, sweet, or Rebecca licks him like that all over his face.
She does.
Yeah, of course she does, but
they do freakier shit
than that. Not kink shame here, Maria.
Yeah, let me tell you, that is so low level freaky for them. That's nothing. That's where they start. That's where they begin. That's level 0. The licking of the face. That's how we get started. So actually, has anybody ever licked your face?
I think, but like not on purpose, just like too much tongue, like that sort of thing.
I had a guy like
lick it like all the way up.
Lick my face one time. It was so weird.
Like to be sexy?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, like it was like we were like doing it. He like licked my face.
I mean, it's not the grossest thing, but like
weird. No, it was just weird. It was just like
it's just
very
bizarre.
unexpected, and it was just like, and I didn't know how to react to that. I was just like, this is weird. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. Moving on. So he comes to, and Timmy says to him, "The jig is up, Julian." And yeah, Julian, you're alive. And Julian starts like wallowing in self-pity, talking about how he can't go back to Harmony, and like everybody in Harmony wants to kill him, and he's trapped in this greasy spoon with no exit. Timmy's like, but the exit's right there. and you know, Julian's like, that's not what I meant. I just like can't, I have no escape. And then Julian drags, he takes off all of his, padding and everything, and he explains how he escaped from the cannery. He says that he got shot, but it was just a flesh wound, and when he fell into the tank, he took off his jacket because it was weighing him down. It was like causing him trouble. He took the jacket off, his ring slipped off. That's how it ended up in the can of tuna. And he swam down into the tank and found the drain, got into the drain, and swam up into the bay. I don't understand the logistics of this cannery. I don't.
Yeah, me neither. That was weird. Like, if he can do that, that means the fish can do that. And then how are you hacking fish?
What are we doing? Also, like, to me, I was like, maybe Julian's magic. Because how did he hold his breath that long? How long is the drain to the bay? Right? Like,
yeah.
And you're
wounded because he did get shot. Yeah, flesh wound, but he was still, he
was bleeding. And he was and like, I feel like if you're in water, that only makes it worse. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like the water would only make you bleed out faster, especially the water's cold. Whatever. Yeah. That's what it is, though. Julian survived by swimming down into the drain of the tank and swimming up into the bay. And then he just was on the run because he called his father. He called Alistair, and Alistair told him he wasn't going to help him because he had disgraced him too much. Basically, he was like, you've let me down, and now you have to run for the rest of your life. That's what Alistair said to him. So run, Simba, run away and never come back. You never return.
Let me down.
Julian, listening and not watching. Maria has now turned on her Alistair cam, so it's just her hand in the camera with like her props. Like she's Alistair, which is funny because, I mean, it's funny, but also Eric, at the Halloween party, Eric was Alistair for Halloween, and that was like his whole thing, and it was hilarious. It's truly hilarious.
It was good. I did get his permission. He said I can do it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it doesn't belong to Eric, but I was just giving Eric his credit.
But he did it so well that it feels like it does.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So,
damn it, Julian. You disgraced the family. You stay dead.
You stay dead. Run away. So he made him run away and said he had to run for the rest of his life. And then Julian and Timmy, like, they start to kind of bond with each other. I'm already enjoying this so much. Julian tells Timmy that, because Timmy's like, how did you learn to cook? And Julian says when he was a teenager, Alistair sent him to one of those teenage survival camps to toughen him up. And that's where he learned to cook rattlesnakes and shit. He's like, I could do wonderful things with a rattlesnake and an iguana or something like that, And so then he asked Timmy why he's there. And Timmy explains that he's on a quest to save Charity from zombie Charity because Charity's on ice. And Julian kind of ignores this. He's like, okay, sure you are.
He always knew he was a little weird.
Yeah, he's like, okay, sure you are. Timmy then tells Julian, like, you need to let people know that you're alive. And he's like, I'll call Tabitha and let her know. But Julian's like, you won't tell anyone. And like brings up the hatchet again, like he's gonna kill Timmy, threatens Timmy. He's like, you won't tell anybody because I can't go back to that town. And then Julian accidentally starts a fire in this restaurant. And it very quickly goes out of control in the kitchen, and they try to escape, but they're like struggling because the door is locked. I guess they're latched. They can't get out. I don't understand why they couldn't get out of the door, but
yeah,
eventually they make it out. I'm not going to do the whole back and forth with the dog. If there was some back and forth with the dog, and then they all got out.
Yeah.
They all got out. Immediately after they got out, the restaurant explodes. so the greasy spoon is no more. Julian has burned it to the ground. So
there was a point when he was changing and he was trying to take off he's like, I don't know how women wear bras. I'm like, yeah,
me
I
neither
feel
now.
Yeah, we don't know how we do it, but yeah, we do
Post-COVID.
it. We wear bras.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God, especially post-COVID.
No.
And then another point, that means Julian has known this whole time that Alistair has known this whole time that Julian was not dead.
Yeah.
So all this with Theresa, all this about you killed a crane, the 2 women or the 3 women fighting for the title, this whole time, Alistair has known that his son is very much alive.
It just highlights for us as the viewers that he's a psychopath. That's what they're doing here, is that they're highlighting, Alistair doesn't give a fuck about it, which we already knew he didn't care about his kids, right?
He did it.
He didn't care about that. He just saw an opportunity to fuck with Theresa, and he decided to do it. Right?
Yeah. There's like layers to everything that he does. But that was a very interesting point to know that Alistair has known this whole time. Like, he let those women squabble about who's the real Mrs. Julian Crane. And the whole time he's like, ain't none of y'all bitches really, because he ain't dead.
Alistair knows everything.
If anything, it's actually really a battle between Rebecca and Ivy, because Rebecca did get married to him.
Well, wasn't Timmy the one who officiated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not married.
I think they're not married.
Rebecca has so little claim. Like, between Ivy, Rebecca, and Theresa, Rebecca really has 0 legs to stand on the being Mrs. Julian Crane.
But she has the best chance now that he's alive, because that is who he would choose to be with.
Maybe. I don't think he wants to marry her.
He doesn't want to stay with Ivy, and he definitely wasn't intending to marry Theresa.
But
he didn't want to marry.
But she doesn't have a leg to stand on, because the thing is, it has already been ruled in Theresa's favor. That's like a done thing
by Alistair.
It's been ruled. It also was ruled, but
by a judge.
But that's in the law. Like, they put it in, and it's like they finalized it, whatever. And the thing that the judge said is that he does recognize Julian's divorce, and he recognized Theresa's marriage to him. Teresa was still married to Julian when Julian married Rebecca. Her marriage to Julian is null and void. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen. It doesn't matter. And to Lisa's point, they were married by Timmy. He's not a real officiant. He's not a real officiant. I didn't even think about that portion of it, but that's a very good point to continue making when it comes to Rebecca. Yeah. So now let's talk about what's going on with Tabitha, actually.
Wait, did anyone write down, his line? He has had one line that was my favorite line, and I wrote it on a piece of paper, and now I can't find it. He was like, I can't go back to Harmony until the killer who killed, the killer who killed me has been killed. Or so it was something, it was like the most soap opera line I'd ever heard. It was very... The killer the killer who killed me has been killed.
Yeah.
I liked it when he said, loads of people want to kill me. Why do you think my hair turned white? And I thought that was cool, because obviously the actor wanted to stop dyeing his hair, and that was the perfect moment. And I think he looks great.
He does look
so much better.
He looks much better like that. Yeah, I agree. Much more distinguished, Julian. So let's talk about Tabitha. Tabitha, meanwhile, is like at her home trying to figure out where Timmy is. She's like chanting spells, but nothing's coming to her. Then Norma shows up at her house, knocking on the door, dressed as a nun. And so when Tabitha opens the door, she doesn't recognize her as Norma. And she's like, ugh, get out of here, you stupid nun. I'm not going to give you any
response.
I'm not going to give you any
proper response for her.
Yeah. And then Norma tells her, well, the little boy sent me. And Tabitha's like, the little boy was misinformed. Get the fuck out off my porch. and she says, you need to leave. There's no way you're going to convert me. No way. Right. Well, the nun just kind of pushes past her into her house, as so many do at Tabitha's house. Everybody's just pushing past Tabitha into her home.
Into her own home.
All the time. And the nun tells her, well, you have so many sins to confess before you die, Tabitha. Ooh. The good father tells me everything, because Tabitha's like, how do you know my name? And what are you talking about? She's like, the good father tells me everything. And Tabitha's like, the good father knows about me. And of course, Norma brings out her skull of her father. She's like, this father. We get this whole reveal of her father, and it's Norma. Oh my God, Norma. And then Norma chases Tabitha around Scooby-Doo style with a hatchet.
Yeah.
Then there's something with Fluffy where Tabitha manages to trick her into like being accosted by Fluffy, but Norma wins out against Fluffy because of course she does. And then at one point while they're running around the house, Zombie Charity just pops up, and Tabitha begs her for help, and Zombie's like, no, I'm not coming to help you. I only came here to tell you that tonight's the night that I'm gonna fuck Miguel and kill him. And then she vanishes. Then she vanishes. And then the floating head appears, and Norma catches both of them. She sees like Tabitha and the floating head, and Norma's like, what the hell is this? But she's still swinging away, trying to get them both. Just as she has cornered Tabitha, the like authorities arrive and tackle Norma, and they catch her and they take her back. They're ready to take her back to, the asylum. And she's ranting about a floating head and a witch. And so obviously it's like, this lady's crazy. Nobody's going to believe anything she says about a floating head. None of that. Yeah. So then Tabitha, once all that's over, go for it, Maria.
No, I was going to say, I'm confused with the writers and what they did, because with Julian being Peggy, it was they were trying to lead us to think that it was actually Norma.
Right.
There was a skull. Didn't she like pull out a skull while cooking?
Peggy? No, I don't remember that, but maybe she did. I don't recall that. I remember thinking it is interesting because Karen had actually told me before I saw any of these episodes, anything. She was like, "Oh yeah, they're leading us to believe it's Norma, but it's not." And then once I was kind of watching it through that lens, I was like, oh yeah, if it were Norma, we would have seen something about her father by now, right? If it were Norma, we would have, there was like some things I was like, I get why they're leading us in this direction because she looks like Norma. But then the thing she says, you realize, oh, those are Julian things. Those are things Julian would say. And Julian also had like a thing about Timmy. So it makes sense that he would be like, Timmy, right? Because he did have like a whole, and so the dialogue, the physicality of Peggy was leading us to Norma, but the dialogue actually ended up leading us to Julian. At first it was like, of course this is Norma. It's obviously Norma. But I never saw the skull.
I thought I saw a skull. I would have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure there was a skull because I actually have forgotten that this was Julian. So for me, it was like, oh shit, this is Julian. Because I have forgotten. So they got me because I'm like, oh yeah, it's Norma. Here we go with the Norma.
It was the Norma
again.
Flashback, which was a bit naughty. They had a flashback that had Norma with the head in about the last time Peggy drunk a martini. So they did have a little cheat in there.
That's probably what I was remembering. Yeah. I was drinking also, so
she says pink appeals to my feminine side. So it wasn't Julian remembering the last time he had a martini. They put in a Norma thing.
They put in a Norma.
It was
memory.
Cheeky. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for saying that, because I would have sworn I thought I saw the skull. That's why I was confused. Like, wait, Julian, what about the skull? Like, that didn't make sense.
Yeah, because they showed her pouring the martini into the skull at Tabitha's house in that flashback. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And then no, I also wanted to point out, and I think I was texting you about it, that the floating head is Adrian Zede, or Zemed. And he played Johnny Negroleni from Grease 2. And the connection is Juliet Mills' husband, Max Caulfield, was in Grease 2. So this is like, that's probably the connection of how he got onto the show to play this floating head.
Couple of degrees of separation,
basically. I recognized him immediately. I was like, I know that guy.
I love when y'all like clock people when I'm like, I don't know who that is. I love that.
Because no one wants to admit that they're on Passion, so we have to do our own research,
right?
Yeah, and call them out,
right? No one's talking about Dustin Hartley got his start on Passions, right? He's like, oh no, from This Is Us and Tracker. Like, no, he's not like Passions.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're from Passions, where you found your first wife and has a child with.
Yeah. So after the whole Norma situation at Tabitha's house, Tabitha's still trying to figure out who is it from Timmy's past who is endangering Timmy, right? She's like, because the floating head has told her there's someone from Timmy's past who's after Timmy and he's in grave danger. And so the next thing we see with Timmy and Julian and Toto is like they're off into like the enchanted woods, like they're off, off on the yellow brick road together. And Timmy is Dorothy and he's got his scarecrow with him, so we'll see.
And Toto,
of course. So let's talk about the zombie. The zombie has decided tonight's the night, so she goes to the church to seduce Miguel. Now, she never goes inside, and I feel like that should have been like, I don't know,
highlighted.
Yeah, I feel like that should have been highlighted more because they made such a big deal about Kay not being able to go in the church, and
Tabitha.
And I was about to say, and they've made a big deal about Tabitha not being able to go in the church either. So I feel like they should have really highlighted the fact that she can't go in the church. And Kay should have used that because Kay knows she can't go in the church. So Kay should have told Miguel, like, yeah, Miguel, you and Charity should go inside and pray together. Your prayers, that she should have done that, but she didn't.
Well, she should have followed Miguel and been like, I'll pray with you, Miguel. Come on, Charity. Come join. What's the matter? Why don't you want to pray for Theresa, Charity? Like,
yeah. 100%. She didn't do that.
No.
Instead, Miguel goes in the church to pray by himself, and then the zombie, she's just like distracted, I guess. I don't know, because Kay starts praying for help from God, and in the courtyard. They're just out in the courtyard, and then the statues, all of these different angel statues, come to life and start to attack zombie Charity, but they're the most useless. Like everything in this church, useless. Right. Just useless.
But still better than the angel.
Better than the angel girl, because at least they did something. They tried to intervene in some way.
They had
They're about
swords.
as helpful as those animals in the Curse of Belarus or Belacruz. Like, they apparently just like walked ominously for a little bit.
Yeah, and like one of them like threw their sword at her. Like, that's not how you use a sword.
That's not how you
don't throw it. And so
it's not a spear.
Yeah, they're just like throwing things at her, missing. She does like a backflip at one point. And meanwhile, Miguel's inside praying for Theresa, has a talk with Father Lonigan, where Father Lonigan says to him, if only Theresa had listened to me. And Miguel is like, huh? He asks about it, but then Father Lonigan just doesn't say anything.
Never mind with me.
Yeah, the holder of all the secrets.
He's so useless. And so they hear the commotion outside, and so they run out. And Miguel runs out and he sees the statues moving, but then he like blinks and rubs his eyes. He's like, my eyes must be playing tricks on me. Are they? You've seen so many fucking things. Why would you think your eyes are playing tricks on you?
Your house got pulled into hell.
Yeah. My eyes must be playing tricks on me. And then he rubs his eyes, and then the statues like all go back to their rightful places, with the exception of like the swords that they threw. They're just like all still on the ground, I guess. And he like finds, he's like, this statue must have dropped this drop this sword. How did it
That's
fall?
what statues
I was like, I hated it.
I will say Kay looked gangster though, standing there with her angel statues though. I will say, like, she looked good.
She thought it was finally time for the zombie to get it, but nothing happened. She really thought like, oh yes, finally my prayers have been answered. These statues are gonna get her for me. But nothing happened.
Why does she have this much pull with heaven anyway? Like all of a sudden Kay is.
Well, here's a reminder. Let's remind the thing about her bringing those statues to life. Actually, I was pretty excited about it because I was like, finally, we're seeing, because Kay technically should have powers of goodness.
She should.
Kay should have powers of goodness. She should be able to do that, right? So I was glad to see her be like.
But she's done so many bad things. You would think that heaven's like,
but
you have a bar tab of things you've done. That's not
how it works, girl. All you got to do is say you're sorry.
Right. Father Lonigan says praying always works. So
yeah, not bad.
She prayed.
Yeah. I mean, she's using evil book spells. She made a zombie.
She's sorry.
She gave away her soul, but angels are like, yeah, we're here for you.
She's sorry.
She's sorry. That's all it takes. That's all it takes is for her to be repentant. And she prayed for help, and they're on the same side at this point. It's like, yeah, we want to get rid of the evil in the world too, I guess.
Well, they suck.
They suck. Are you
any of you Who fans? Doctor Who fans?
No, sorry.
All right. Well, there's an episode of Doctor Who which is like one of the best ones, and the villain in that is like these weeping angels, which are basically statues that are always like this. And they, as long as you're looking at them, they can't move. But if you look away or blink for a second, they'll come at you. And so it was giving very like weeping angels, which is so I
thought you meant the band, The Who. Not
also
not massively into Doctor Who.
No, the Doctor.
I was too scared when I was little. The Daleks terrified me as a child.
Yes, they're terrifying. But the weeping angel. Do you know the weeping angels then?
No.
Well,
sorry.
But it's all right. If you ever, it's about the scariest thing I can handle without being.
It is scary.
Yeah. Like it's like who level like silly/scary is about my max. I can't really do anything else.
You see those
supernatural, those angels
kids.
Are definitely different.
No, this was, but I still get creeped out when I see things that are not supposed to be moving. It's so free. Like even like when this thing like turned a little bit, I'm still like, I don't know. There's something about it that really.
I personally, I hate going to like, everybody hates going to funerals. Everybody hates like going to wakes, but like ever since I was a kid, when we would go to like the viewing or whatever of bodies, I don't know if this ever happened to anybody else, but I stopped looking at going to like view the bodies, like because I swear to God, it would look like their lips were moving. Every time I would look at one, it looked like they were talking, like they were like their lips were just barely moving every single time. And ever since then, like I cannot like when I go to funerals, I do not view the body. I never ever do it because it just freaked me out so bad when I was I think the last time I did it, I was probably like 15, 16. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
It's unsettling.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of our spooky, spooky segment. So where were we? The statues.
They don't have statues. It's over.
Yeah, so it's on the ground.
Yeah. So Charity and Miguel decide to go off alone to pray, not in the church, just somewhere else to pray. It's like, wouldn't the most powerful place to pray be inside the church? But whatever. They go off to be alone and pray. And Father Lonigan clocks that Kay is responsible for the evil that has come back to Harmony. He's like, you did this, didn't you? And she's like, yeah, but I didn't mean to.
Yeah, she starts to tell him everything.
Yeah, he makes her come into the church and pray with him, and she confesses to Father Lonigan all, like, the entire story.
I really loved this conversation. It was one of the highlights for the whole show. I was like, I don't really love Father Lonigan ever, but like I was kind of like, everything she was giving, he was like, all right, no, we'll roll with that. Okay, no, what else? Yes, and like the way he was yes anding her, and I was like, what? Okay.
He is one of the few characters on the show you can really tell him anything and he's like believes it immediately. He's like, yeah, that sounds plausible to me. Evil. Yeah. you know?
Yeah.
But so she tells him the whole story about Charity, how she found the book, about Charity being on ice, about her making the zombie turning on her, all of it, right?
The panther.
The whole thing, the whole sordid tale. And Father Lonigan tells her, you need to pray, Kay. You need to pray. Pray with me, Kay. And so then they start to pray to save Miguel, and they're saying their prayers. And multiple times throughout, while they're like saying these like fervent prayers, Kay gets frustrated. She's like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to do anything. I need to go do something. I have to help him. She's going to kill him tonight. She tells him that portion of it, that if Miguel has sex with her, that he's going to die immediately, and that's her plan and everything. She tells him absolutely everything. So she's getting frustrated because she feels like she's not doing anything. This isn't going to work. She then gets up, sees something. She's like, this will definitely stop her. We didn't see what that was. Did either of you? I didn't see it. I feel like we'll see it next week, I guess.
No, I didn't see it.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, she gets frustrated. She sees something. She's like, this will definitely stop her. This will get her. But that's like where we ended with Kay specifically. Oh. And then we see Miguel and Charity. Miguel and Charity have like, quote, wandered into a cemetery. Obviously, zombie Charity has led him to a cemetery.
Right.
I mean, they're at a church, so cemetery might be right
there.
There.
Maybe.
I just remembered that I recorded a piece of dialogue from Charity because it was one of my favorite things. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. It's just funny to think about stopping, Kay. If you do, your mother and your father and your sister and your brothers, the half and the whole ones, are going to get it.
That's hilarious. The half and the whole ones.
And the whole ones.
That's hilarious.
It was so good.
I think she said, and anyone else you think.
Yes,
you
anyone you love.
Oh.
And she had like a Simone Caressa the cheek, right? Whoever choreographed these scenes had a similar, and anyone you love. Or
anyone else you think you love. Yes, she's obsessed with Miguel rather than
so
Miguel.
So good.
I would think that she was trying to like lure in about John.
Oh.
What do you think?
Well,
Maybe
she
like
love
John.
John.
But like, since she's bringing a family.
Well, she already covered John with a half brother comment.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, that was supposed to be Ethan.
Well, she has to. I think she said her brother and her half brothers. I don't think it was like specific, but I think it was like I'm naming all of them. Every single one of them.
That's really terrifying. I'm gonna tell everyone you love and everyone you think you love. That kind of messes me. I'm like, who do I think I love?
Yeah, that's actually very deep.
Yeah. I mean, are you supposed to care about the people you don't love?
I looked at that as Kay doesn't love Miguel because she truly loves him. She wants him to be happy with real Charity. He loves him. She's doing anything.
That's a great analysis of it. That's
Yeah.
because she's obsessed with Miguel. She doesn't love Miguel. She just thinks she loves Miguel. Ooh, that's great. Great stuff, people. So they're in this cemetery, Miguel and Charity, and they have like a conversation around Theresa. Of course, Miguel's worried about Theresa. He wants to get out of the cemetery. He's like, let's get out of here. I'm sure you're scared. She's like, no, actually, I kind of like it here. Can we just stay here? That would include me immediately. Like, girl, no, let's go. Like, no, we cannot just.
She said it was peaceful.
And then it starts to like sprinkle, like it starts to rain. He's like, oh, let's get you inside. She's like, oh, I actually kind of love the rain. And he's like, you never cease to surprise me, Charity. That's so stupid. And so it starts to kind of get a little rainy. And then zombie Charity does something with her powers where her hands light up really bright. And then the atmosphere around them kind of turns kind of like hazy red. The rain starts to kind of pour. Drums start drumming.
Tribal drums in the background.
Yeah. Tribal drums. And it gets really hot. He's like, oh, do you feel like it got really hot all of a sudden? And then she goes to him and says, Miguel, what about your sister? And he's like, what sister? She's like, great, my spell is working. So she's cast some sort of spell to kind of like put Miguel into a fog, like this haze, right? Like lust, right? And then she says, I want you to make love to me here, tonight, right now. And they start, she takes off her shirt and he takes off his shirt. They start taking off their clothes. They start like making out. She lays him down on the ground. They're making out real heavy. And then we hear Father Lonigan's voice like, protect him, Father, protect him. And so Miguel sits up, he's like, Father Lonigan, where are you? Father, where are you?
I mean, if it was gonna be any boner killer, it would be your priest. It would be your priest.
Yes. And so she kind of lays him back down. And then these like dead hands come up from the grave below and trap Miguel. It was like hands at the top and hands at the bottom, like all over his legs. It's like two bodies, I guess. And he's like, what's happening? And that's where we basically ended. But she like starts kissing him and he's like still like into it, like he's not foggy, he's in a haze. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
This is what she needed to do in the hotel to avoid having to do the poetry.
Just
to do the poetry.
To do the spell, I guess.
Why did she do the sex spell then? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was torture getting through that poetry. I'm sorry. It was like
roses are red, violets are blue.
She should have like,
I love you. Yeah, terrible. Well, that's what we ended this week. Have anything to add?
You did a great job.
It was a long one. It was a very long one, but we did it. I'm proud of you. I knew going this. Before we started this to the listeners, I told them, I was like, this is gonna be a long one, y'all. Like,
we're fine. We knew because we all have a massive amount of notes.
And I feel like it's hard because you're always doing the most and you're doing all the pre-work and then all the post-work. I feel like you're usually the first one to tap out and you're like, all right, I'm fading, guys. Let's You're usually the first one to be like, all right, you know, like giving everyone a sign, like,
And it's normally like the Brian is like, look, I don't even care. This is what happened. Whatever. Nothing happened. Let's move on. I'm going.
No, that's right. I got this while driving. I don't care. I could not care less.
But this week was such a good week. I think there's some weeks that are just actual drudgery, and so but weeks like this is like, yeah, because there's a lot of things. There's more I could talk about here, but I'm not going to because we've already talked so long. But there was a lot this week and it was great.
I feel like we're setting up a lot to happen. So like, well, it's summer, right? Is it next June?
Yeah,
it's mid-June, so they're setting up for the summer because all the kids are about to be out for summer vacation and they're gonna be in front of their TV watching us.
We were out of school at this point. I was out of school. We got out of school in mid-May. We go back to school at like the end of July or like very early August. And we got out mid-May, and so by June, yeah, I locked in.
Okay,
yeah. So
those of us on the New England side of things,
yeah,
New England time zone.
It's June. June is around the time that school starts, and we pick up until
July is when you're like free.
Yeah. Maria, where can the people find you?
They can find me either on the Discord from Patreon. Please join. We can have plenty of conversations. Or if you want to email me directly, it's gwenfan329@aol.com.
We love it. At AOL. I love it.
AOL.
I love it.
AOL. I've had it since passions.
Everyone just
She's had that
Okay.
since 1999, period.
open your Netscape
Yes.
navigator and
Yes.
I still use it. That's how you can communicate with me. That's how the podcast communicates with me.
All right. And it is. And Lisa A., where can we find you?
At Make Everyday Looks on Instagram and YouTube.
Wonderful. And Lisa S., what about you?
nowhere.
Nowhere.
Lurking.
And like Maria, you can find me on the Patreon. So, and that's that. So with that, you are my passion for life.